preparing the live stream right now.
I'm going to follow your lead.
Well, hold on. I'll tag you on the tweet once we get out.
Okay.
Because it takes me a while because I got to put the link in a bunch of different places, and a lot of people are notified automatically just because of the they subscribe to the page. So, but others do not. So I have to get up there and start posting things. All right, I see us. We are live. Just give me. So I just need a couple of minutes here. So what basically happens here is, as you probably know, listening to the show, we'll just start the show, intro music, all that good stuff, and then we'll just go right into the show and do it. Sometime in the show, I'll do the 30-second commercial. You know all about commercials.
Yep.
You do them a lot better than I do. And then we'll just end the show, get to overtime. But we'll have plenty of talk about. It seems like it seems like USCHO got you going today.
Sloppy.
Well, there's just so much going on with this bracketology stuff because they're so used to having the pairwise, and now they're just like, "Whoa, what do we do?" And they're just making stuff up, and they're
like, it's like if they relied totally on the GPS in their car, and then they don't have it, and they don't even know how to get out of the cul-de-sac. Double Wisconsin, brutal.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Nightmare. 2 Wisconsins in an NCAA tournament.
I know they've gotten a lot of hype this year with Caulfield, but come on.
He is good.
Hold on, I just got a lot of stuff to do here.
So Jupiter, do I have to send links to the people I want to share it with, or if they do the link that you sent earlier, will they just kind of see it?
No, you won't do that. It'll be a YouTube link, and I'm just I'm just tagging you right now. So watch your Twitter.
Okay.
And there's the live link right there.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go put it on Facebook as well.
Got you.
Post that. All right. That is posting. Why isn't it? Is everything working there, Viggs?
In terms of tweeting?
Yeah, it looks like the link.
It says we're now live.
Sweet.
We've even got Kinger on with us.
It didn't give me a preview on Facebook there. That's
remember to chat in there, Connor, so we can.
I did. I said hello. The chat is up. I see Steve's already in there. Damn, computer. Let me just double check something here. Oh yeah, that's working. Sweet.
Figured I had to get some brown liquor in reserve here in case this OT goes.
Reserve.
I got all kinds of stuff. I got the screwball.
Oh boy.
Got a little Tennessee Fire. Maybe. We'll try some things.
And you got the hard liquor. I think you've got the beer, Viggs, right?
Yeah.
And I've got the wine.
What beer won?
We're covering all three tonight.
A little preview for the live listeners.
Yeah.
Russian Imperial Stout.
Ooh.
I went for the bottom one, but the stats weren't good. Two stouts. I couldn't vote for a stout.
All right.
Street's good, man. All right. Maybe I'll open it up. We'll see.
All right. I think we're ready here, boys. Let me just do one couple thing here. Get the audio recording going here. Well, let's start the show. This is the GPL podcast, sponsored by Jerry Peters and First Class Mortgage. Our expertise, your peace of mind. Visit us at firstclassmortgage.com. Now, here's Jupe and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 189. Well, due to some cancellations with some hockey this week, we thought we'd throw you guys a curve a little bit. And since there's no games to preview, no Penn State, we thought we'd bring in a new guest, and you might not recognize his name, but you probably recognize some of his work. John King is now joining us. John, tell us what you're famous for.
I chose to use my 15 minutes of fame to judge adolescent boys' hairstyles in the state tournament. So I guess that's how I played my hand.
And then you ended up having a Barry Melrose in your living room as you judged.
I did get to smoke some cigars with Barry, and he is as cool as you think he would be.
He is. I've actually met him myself. He was here for the Frozen Four in 2011. And a few of us got to sit at a table with him down at Tom Reed's, which was a blast after the game. And it was a fun time, even though Duluth won, not the greatest, but it was a good time. But it's nice having you on. I mean, you do a lot more than the hockey here. One thing I've been doing lately is listening to your Sunday morning coming down podcast. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like with the hockey hair each year, I had the opportunity to kind of, I guess, give a point of view about what was going on in the world. And I was craving that during the pandemic. So I came up with this idea. It's a 30-minute podcast, comes out every Sunday morning. So if you're a little banged up from your Friday or Saturday night, it's just there to make you feel normal, because I've usually done something worse than you have. And so that's kind of how the show works. I think that's accurate.
Now, I listened to this week. Did you ever figure out if something happened outdoors or not? You never came to a conclusion. Have you come to a conclusion yet?
Story you're referring to, overserved at the 617 here in White Bear Lake. And unfortunately, my wife was out of town visiting my daughter, but we have a camera system on my house. And there's some footage that would seem to indicate that I decided to go to the bathroom in my front yard about midnight. But I do believe it's inconclusive. I think it's like the Zapruder footage. I just think I'm walking bow-legged because it's icy. That's what it looked like to me. What did you think?
Oh, I haven't seen the video.
Yeah. Check Sunday morning coming down pod on Instagram, and you can make the call. I'd say inconclusive.
Well, you see, that was during the week though. Did you maybe, let's just go, and you were celebrating a Gopher sweep this weekend. That's what you were doing.
Oh man, I couldn't, I'm a season ticket holder, and the irony of the fact that this absolutely special team, and I can't see them play. It's just nuts. It's been a fun ride though.
It has been a fun ride. Vigs, it was a successful weekend, and that's all we can hope for right about this time of year.
Yeah, I was really intrigued to see how they were coming out play Sparty. There's been a couple series in the past where the Gophers will come out and play a nice opener game with them or get off to a good start. And all of a sudden there's some senior leaders on that Spartan team who flip the switch and they come out and compete and make it really difficult for Minnesota to hang on, and they don't get the full 6 points. I thought what Minnesota did really well against Michigan State was they didn't give away the game. They didn't commit turnovers at the blue lines. They got out of their zone clean. They didn't try the long stretch passes, and they stuck to the game plan that Bob wants them playing. We talk about that 45 seconds of hell. They brought it a little bit more this past weekend, and that bodes well for them getting to this point of the season, that they've got that in their heads. I think early in the season when they were playing teams like Arizona State, they said, okay, this is a point night. Let's go out and get healthy, boost our numbers a little bit. That didn't happen. They stuck to their game plan, and they never really let Michigan State into it. And it's what you want to see.
Now, John, in the past, we've seen good Gopher teams get let down by games like this. We've seen it many times. But, this year, they have 9 sweeps this year. And kind of going off of what you said, it's a disappointment we're not seeing this team, but it's even, I think it makes me feel very great, and hopefully makes you feel great that we really haven't had those kind of letdowns against inferior teams this year, which we've seen for a couple decades now.
Yeah, we had a stretch of about 5 years where we were haunted on one night of the series, and then
Mhm.
it was Jekyll and Hyde. And man, is consistency fun. I mean, to be able to kind of settle in, you're turning on the Gophers, and it's like a steak dinner. It's going to be a positive experience. That's pretty cool.
It is. It's been a while, Vigs. I mean, there was a couple seasons in there where they didn't have any sweeps the entire year.
Yeah,
And now they've got 9.
There's been more battle hymn at 3M at Mariucci Arena than ever. At old Mariucci, you used to hear a lot of battle hymn. But the new one, it's been a little slow to hit the playlist. And you just wish the band was there and the students were there sweeping the hands, because that's a fun part about being in the building for these weekends. And this team is headed places. I think one of the things Bob has figured out is he can push this team around and he can be hard on them, which is something you don't always see with a program like this. You saw after the game on Friday night, he said it's a B+ game. We had 2 right wings that were flat tires, and a line can't have a flat tire. You need all 3 tires pumped up and going to be effective. And it was pretty obvious who he was calling out. Jackson Nelson and Bryce Brodzinski. Those are the players he was talking about. He didn't name them specifically, but he named their line and position. Don't see that too often in college athletics. But you know what? They both responded the next night. He gave them another chance in the lineup, didn't make any changes, and they upped their game.
Yeah, I listened to that Friday night, and he calling out those guys, talking about how bad some wingers were, and whereas he didn't say their name, he pretty much just gave it to us, Vigs. I mean,
he emphasized it. When Bob wants to emphasize something, he's not going to leave too much to the imagination. The message is going to be sent loud and clear. And just like one media member was bringing up, is LaFontaine going to see anything because of the long stretch pass that he tried that turned into a goal? He's like, nope, Jack is our guy. He'll be in the net tomorrow night. He'll be in the net the next weekend and the weekend after that.
Oh, so come on.
He's pretty clear.
We named names. Was that Jess Myers again?
It was not. Although Jess has oftentimes this season tried to start some storylines, and he's got an agenda about the story that he wants to write. Some writers in Philly sometimes do the same thing, but it was not. So it was a learning experience for everybody about where this thing's headed.
Oh boy. Now, John, you've been a fan a long time. You've been a part of this program. I mean, you've been kind of involved, in the back end and some marketing things to you. But how have you felt about Motzko taking over for Lucia? Were you like a lot of us other fans where it was just time for Lucia to move on? How did you feel about that whole situation?
Yeah, I was ready for the change. I mean, Don's always going to have a special spot because of the couple titles that were long awaited for me as a fan. So he's a great coach. But I think Bob coming in, the couple things I remember about that transition was he said he wants to bring Gopher hockey back to the dive bars of St. Paul. You mentioned the 45 seconds of hell. And I love that he hasn't won a national championship as a head coach. So he still has that hunger. And to me, that's what it's all about. That's all that matters. If we can get more banners, big banners. So yeah, I think I'm very excited Bob's on board.
So another successful week in VAs. We've got no Penn State series this weekend. It's been canceled. It's looking like the Big Ten tournament's going to move up to about maybe a Sunday through Tuesday or something along those lines. Move up quite a few days, VAs. Have you heard anything about that? Or sounds like it could be announced any minute here.
Yeah, it should be within the next 24 hours, I would think. Big Ten's got a lot going on. They've got these basketball games they're trying to figure out as they get to the end of that season. Women's basketball, we see the volleyball team is getting some games on TV. They're starting to get soccer going, baseball going. So the Big Ten offices are spread kind of thin. Like they're built to promote basketball and football and the other stuff they just kind of take on with what they have. So there's a delay there, but the coaches are pretty vocal. Look at what the NCHC is doing with their tournament. Look at what Hockey East is doing with their tournament. We need to change what you guys set up and publicize. So Mel Pearson yesterday said that the tournament's going to be a Saturday through Tuesday event. So I'm assuming that means there'll be 3 games on Saturday, the 2 games on Sunday, a rest day, a game on Tuesday, and then they'll have that week before selection Sunday to rest up and then prepare for their opponent, which could be that next Thursday. So there's plenty of rest built in there for Minnesota. That's something Bob was very concerned about coming down the stretch with no buys and potentially some makeup games here and there. But they now have a plan. It's going to be announced really soon.
I kind of like the sound of that. What do you think, John? Moving it up? I mean, if you play 3 games in a row, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then you're coming back next Friday after you just played 3 games. I kind of like the idea of, at least this season, of moving it up a bit, getting a little extra time off.
I actually like the schedule was so weird this year with what was it, Thursday, Fridays, and Monday.
Every day of the week they played this year.
But it was, I know we got a big group text of guys that watch the Gophers, and we got really into that rhythm of having it, whatever what it was, 4 days and 4 games in 7 days. It sounds like the Big Ten tournament will be kind of like that. It's very 2020-21, I guess.
Well, I definitely like it. Move it up. The fans aren't going. You don't have to do any traveling. Let's just the teams will travel. I really like this idea of what they want to do here. Another thing, Vigs, that we saw today that kind of got you going a little bit is USCHO putting together their thoughts on the NCAA tournament. And when you saw Wisconsin listed there twice, you like, something is up here.
Well, it's just been frustrating because I read an article earlier this week talking about the Big Ten race as if the number of points a team accumulated was going to impact the conference title. That's not the case. That hasn't been the case since November. It's going to be winning percentage. They are doing it differently than some of the other leagues. It's not a point percentage. They've still been doing the shootouts and things this year. So that kind of, primed the pump a little bit on my fuse. And then I see this bracketology that comes out from the people who have been
the smartest people in these years. They
get it right every year. Jason Moy is the bracketologist expert. He gets the seeds right. He gets the regions right. He's done everything. So now we get this uncertainty, this mist of smoky room of what's going to happen. And they just start making up some stuff that just has no basis in what college hockey is right now. And these projections that are getting some people going. And it's just like, come on, guys, you can do better. Atlantic hockey. Sure. I have a lot of respect for those guys and those 24 and 25-year-old kids who are playing college hockey and, have put in the time, but they are not deserving of 3 teams in the tournament. They're just not. None of those guys are NHL undrafted free agent prospects. If they were, I think that's a legit case that this is a team that could compete with the blue bloods of college hockey, but they're just not. So why would you reward them with 3 teams, especially when we have the Ivies sitting out this year and all their developed talent? NCHC, Big Ten, WCHA, Hockey East, that's the core of this year's tournament. Those are the best teams. Those are the best programs. You can look back at historical metrics. That's who should be in the tournament. Maybe one Atlantic team. Sorry. Maybe one ECAC team because there's only 4 of them.
The auto bids.
And I'm sorry, AIC, if you don't get in by winning your conference tournament, we will not get more yellow jacket action on the ice.
Tell us how you really feel, Vigs.
It's just a mess. You give some people some uncertainty, they run away a little too much with it.
I like the idea just of smoky room. Do it like they did back in the 90s when no one had any idea what was going on.
That's fine. Because whatever they tell us during the selection show with Butchergrass, it doesn't matter. They're picking the teams. These people are very knowledgeable about college hockey. There's enough people involved where it's not going to be too crazy. They're going to pick the best teams that they think are the best 16 teams. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I feel better. Do you guys feel better?
I feel better. Of course I feel better.
I'm still shaking off the 2 Wisconsins in the tournament. It's like The Shining, like my worst nightmare, seeing two Wisconsins in the same tournament.
I mean, for the Big Ten to be successful, we want Wisconsin to be good, but not so good they get 2 teams in there. Come on, Jim. Be better. Be better.
Well, before we move on, we do need to hear from our sponsor.
Hey, fellow GPLers, this is Jerry Peters from First Class Mortgage. Interest rates are near all-time lows and property values are on the rise. Lower your interest rate and remove monthly PMI at the same time to save thousands of dollars. Or use the equity in your home for debt consolidation and home improvement. The housing market is still hot, so make sure you're prepared by getting a pre-approval letter from me before you start shopping. Mention you heard about me on the GPL podcast and receive a $300 closing cost credit. Some restrictions do apply. Call me today at 612-940-3291 or visit firstclassmortgage.com to fill out a free online application. My NMLS number is 480200. First Class Mortgages is 322842. This is not an offer to lock into an interest rate agreement under Minnesota law. First Class Mortgage is an equal housing lender.
Helps if I unmute it. We always thank Jerry for sponsoring us. Well, we know there's no games this weekend, so we thought we'd have some fun. That's why we have you on this week, John. How in the hell did this hair thing start? Was it just kind of a fun little project for you, and then it just kind of blew up out of control?
A buddy of mine had an hour of TV time on Care 11 locally after Saturday Night Live. So this would be from 11:30 to 12:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it was basically really drunk people that were watching this. I don't know who they were, but this was a long time ago. This was 2005. And I came up with the concept and made the original video, which had a gopher in it. What's the guy from Centennial? RJ
Anderson.
RJ Anderson is in the 2005 video. And then, it just was kind of in the universe in the middle of the night. And 2011, YouTube was kind of a thing. And I think I was just down at the tournament looking around at 100,000 people, everybody on 7th Street. Kids were all playing on 2 hockey teams, and just thought maybe I should crank that thing up again now that we're all digital. I tried to sell it to Great Clips at the time for $2,500. I said, if I get 5,000 views, pay me. If I don't, you don't have to pay me anything. They didn't write back. So I put my local hairstylist in it, Hair Matters, and went to see that movie Cedar Rapids. If you remember that, I was in the theater and I sent it to 100 hockey parents, and then woke up the next morning and this thing was a thing. And then it's just been a blast for years now, and giving a lot of money to the Hendrickson Foundation as well.
Well, that's kind of the important thing right there. And you were anonymous for many years. I remember I had people asking me, who does that? I'm like, I don't know. It wasn't until, Barry Melrose and ESPN went looking for you. They found you, and you guys did a little special story on it. And, I actually put that link out there earlier this week that you finally outed yourself.
Yep. Yeah. ESPN reached out and said they were going to come to town for the tournament, which I thought was so great because I'm just a big fan. I was not a hockey player growing up. I think
you're an Edina guy.
That's right. I'm from the small town on the west side with the dream.
I'm a Jefferson guy. I didn't play hockey until I was an adult either.
Yeah, so I'm just a weak ankled wannabe. But they were coming to town, and I thought, what a cool deal. And they said, but the trade off is we want to unmask you. And I said, well, who's it going to be? And they said Barry Melrose. I said, well, if it's going to go down, if somebody's going to pull off the mask, it might as well be Big Barry. So yeah, he was so great. Stayed late, told stories. He's just cool. There's a handful of people. You think David Faraday, Barkley, Melrose. It's like every sport has one legit cool person you'd want to drink a beer with, and to get to do that with him was pretty special.
I've found over the years talking with different hockey personalities that for me at least, they seem to be the most down-to-earth people.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just meeting the right people, but let me tell you, sitting around talking with the Wooger or Glenn, these people are just hockey people. And we'll go out at Viggs and I will go out after the games. We'll see the referees from the games at the place we're at. And they're the same people. They're hockey guys. They'll come up and explain things to you. This hockey community is quite amazing. And I don't think a lot of people really, as a college hockey fan, we're a little different. People kind of like, college hockey, what about the pros? And I'm like, yeah, we'll watch the pros, but it's just not the same. So it's just a different community. And just like you said, you had Barry Melrose just come into your living room. How does that happen? It's like, it's kind of a hockey thing.
It was great. I said to the producer, I said, the only thing I want to smoke a cigar with Barry after we're all done. And he goes, all right, I'll ask him. And then he comes back and Barry says, as long as they're good cigars. And then he didn't even smoke one of mine. He had a suit that was probably 4 sizes too big, and he had his own cigars. So yeah, but he probably sat with us on my porch for 2 hours drinking and smoking and with my brothers and a couple buddies.
Well, that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Well, so you started, you did the Sunday morning Coming Down podcast. You started that almost a year ago, kind of when the pandemic started. But also this fall, you started another podcast. Tell us about that.
Yep, I'm doing one called Can You Keep a Secret? And it's with my partner, Tom Garrity. As I understand it, my Zoom might say Gina Garrity on it tonight. So I can say whatever I want and Gina will get in trouble. But Tom's the commissioner of the United States Hockey League, a lifelong friend. And he came up with this idea. He said, let's interview famous people, but not ask them normal questions. So if we interview Ryan Suter, we're not going to talk to him about hockey.
Mm-hmm.
If we interview Tommy Kramer, we're not going to do the 5 questions everybody thinks to ask. And we're just getting going with that one, but we did Martin Zeller, which was just a treat because he's like Minnesota's sweetheart, Martin Zeller. He's just an icon for people of a certain age. Did Ryan Carter, Suter, Frank Vassalero. And it's been fun. I think you'll like it if you listen to it. It's an easy listen, lots of weird questions.
Nothing wrong with that. And then, as you're kind of, you'd say your day job, you do a lot of marketing, a lot of advertising stuff. You actually were part of the pizza campaign last year with Mr. Fleck, weren't you?
Oh man, what a treat. We had this idea called Pizza Elite, and it was basically it's basically making fun of PJ Fleck, but we had PJ Fleck make fun of PJ Fleck.
Yeah.
And so it was middle of the pandemic. We sent him scripts. Heard he was interested. He really likes Red Savoy's pizza. So he actually kind of started the relationship with Savoy because that's what he feeds his players. And had a couple scripts, and he showed up. We had to shoot it at my house because it was the pandemic. Drove himself, changed in my basement, right where I'm recording. and he was, I mean, anybody who doesn't like PJ Fleck, I just got to say, PJ Fleck is 1000% PJ Fleck. He just is that person. So I know we like to roll our eyes in Minnesota and be passive aggressive, but I think that hurts him a little bit. It hurts his heart when you do that because he's just a jack in the box. I like him a lot.
So is PJ giving everybody notes and getting everybody on set energized for the performance that's about to ensue?
There's a blooper reel of him that the U won't let me do anything with. That is one of the funniest things. So he never even, I don't think he even saw the script before he got to my house, either of them, which is a huge risk because we only had 2 hours with him. And if he was a dud, it's a total disaster, waste a bunch of money. But he was he was awesome. He jumped off the screen. But yeah, I had cue cards. And so he'd go up there and then he's just getting his stance. And PJ, he's something else, man.
Wow,
Are you guys PJ guys? You like him, or are you kind of scarred from Brewster and everything?
Brewster's a big scar because he was kind of that excited guy too, and had results early, and then it just went.
Guy who can have success at Western Michigan and then recruit like he does and just has that energy. Kids love it. I love it. I'm a football season ticket holder. I'm there every game. Very excited to see what they're going to do going forward.
Yeah, I think he's great. I hope he sticks around. That'll be the biggest thing.
And that's the toughest thing right there. Whenever somebody gets successful, they leave. And well, the biggest example would be Lou Holtz. He was just kind of getting that team, on the brink, and then he up and leaves. And then it's another 25, 30 years or whatever it was again.
I'm ready to be hurt again. I'm okay with that. If they have some success and he moves on to his dream job, I will just be appreciative for what he gave.
Don't say that. Come on, Viggs.
It's part of being a Minnesotan.
Exactly. That's how we've grown up. It's just like, I'm ready. I'll take it when it happens.
I remember my son was out on our porch when Favre was about to go to the Super Bowl. And I looked at him and I said, Bennett, you're about to see something I haven't seen in my lifetime. The Vikings are going to the Super Bowl. Then we had 12 men in the huddle. He threw across the body. And then it was like, never mind. Welcome to the
Yeah, I think I'm a couple years older than you. I don't recall any Super Bowls when I was a young kid. That 98 killed me. After 98 happened, I kind of sat there, and when Favre threw the interception, I just yep, that's what it's like to be a Minnesota fan right there. That is exactly what's like. That's why for me, the biggest thing is the 2002 national championship. That was the ultimate for me as a Minnesota sports fan. Twins was great, but hockey, that was a big deal for me.
Can I ask you guys a couple Gopher hockey questions since you're the experts?
Well, wait. Vigo is the expert on hockey. I'm just the host, but I'll try to answer anything you want. What do you got?
I'll give you a layup to start. This is just softball. How great is it to have puck moving defensemen again? This Faber kid with his tortoiseshell glasses and honeycomb, and I mean, oh my God, it is just the greatest, right? I mean, it's a game changer to have those D. Is that the whole difference between us being good again? Am I overestimating that?
No, I think you're right on. I mean, I think you're exactly right on.
There are three keys. There are three keys to this team being as good as they are right now.
Here we go.
One of them, the defense. They move the puck quickly. But if you don't have centers who help the transition get going, the defense can't really do that much. They're going to take a lot more risks. They're going to get into trouble. You're going to trade scoring. But they've got centers right now who are all experienced, can win draws. They start with the puck. And the third piece of that is goaltending. We haven't seen a goaltender as consistent as LaFontaine for a long, long time. And he makes the saves when they need him to make saves. And he's a big reason their penalty kill is so good. But yes, it is fun to see the defensemen they have. I think for Bob's style, you have to have that year in and year out. And that's going to be the big challenge.
Well, look at their championship
committed right now, but we'll see.
Look at their championship teams, Viggs. I mean,
yeah, it helps.
You've got a Ballard, you've got a Leopold. I mean, you look at all their really good teams that made Frozen Fours. They might not have won them all, but even a few years ago when they lost to Union, think of the defense they had there. You go back to the 90s with my boy Crowley and some of those other players they had back there. They had studs back there, and that's something they just haven't had.
Bob almost made a reference to that last year during one of the availabilities, and he stopped himself because he didn't want to put that kind of pressure. So he couldn't quite quote him on it as saying it was like that crew, but he saw it. He saw it coming together, and now he's reaping it this year.
But like you also do say there, it's also been a team thing. It's like, it's not just, the centers. It's just getting back. You see a center, I see Walker lose a puck. He is right on that guy trying to get the puck back. They've been getting a lot of, they've been getting a lot of steals this year just from pressure that we never saw that the last 5-6 years. No steals at all.
We saw that from Walker and McLaughlin when they were freshmen, and it kind of went away. But it's back right now. It's fun to watch. What
else you got for us, John? Come on, let's go.
Okay, Cullen Munson. I believe I forget what McConaughey's character was in Dazed and Confused, but this guy should come back as a fifth-year senior. He is just, I swear, he's going to be the guy that scores the goal to win the national championship. I know he shaved his mustache. He's just, I don't know what it is. He's like the mascot of this team. You feel the Cullen Munson, or is that just a personal deal?
Go ahead, Viggs.
I don't know if I feel it that he's the personality of the team, but I think he's got the respect of the team, and he is very comfortable with who he is, and he's very appreciative of the opportunity that he has this year. It wasn't a sure thing that it was going to work out. He was kind of a late add under the previous coaching staff as someone who needed a place to play. And they're like, you know what? Everyone says you're a good guy. We'll give you a chance. We can't guarantee you anything. And he's worked for it. And he's worked really hard and he's stuck it out. And Bob said this week, if I was doing lines last summer for this season, not sure Cullen would be in my top 12, but he sure is there now. And he does everything you need that makes teams successful. He blocks shots. He hustles. He's on the forecheck. He doesn't make turnovers. And it's fun to see him get some success like last weekend.
That's my favorite part of his game, Viggs, is his hustle. He might not always make the best play or the right play, but he's up there busting his ass. And that's what I love the most about Cullen Munson. He's always out there busting his ass.
He's from Edina, but he's working class.
He's something, man. I don't know. He's Wooderson. He's a good dude. What about I also, the other guy I think's underestimated is Castor, because they got these big D that are kind of heralded, Faber and Johnson and Lacombe. But I mean, the depth we have on the blue line is shocking. Even a guy like Brinkman, Stoddiker's just a man, a man that can take care of things. The depth, and I think Castor is going to end up being a really, really nice blue liner as well. What do you think?
And I think with him, the fact that he swallowed his pride and went back to junior for another year, you're seeing what that can do for a player. If he would have came right in and with very little junior experience, it would have been a hard year for him. But you've seen him come in, be successful. When all those guys went to the World Junior, you saw Castor raise his game, and you're starting to see him be able to play with a little bit more sturdiness. Like you could see against Michigan State, people are leaning on him pretty heavy, and he's able to hold his ground, hold his center of gravity, and learn to make a play. You have kids who are coming from high school, they just can't handle that. They have to go through the process and know what that feels like, because the competition in big-time college hockey is way different. I don't care what you say. You better be one of the elite skaters of your draft class to be able to make that leap quickly.
What I'm wondering is, when is Johnson going to get that first goal? He has been close. I've noticed he's been shooting a lot more, or actually he's been a lot of times just holding that puck that extra half second to wait for a lane to open up, and he's just been kind of snake bit. But I'm waiting for Verbrugge to say his first goal in maroon and gold, and it's got to come here soon, isn't it, Viggs?
It'll come. He's got too much talent, and they have the puck enough where he'll get one.
So how about postseason? Okay, so I am so bullish on this team, but that Wisconsin weekend, it scared the hell out of me. I don't even know. I was so arrogant leading in, popping my collar, eat some cheese curds, pour a Malbec out, watch another couple easy go for victories, and we just got smoked. Are we going to be okay? Are we gonna do some damage in the NCAAs? Tell me it's going to be okay. Someone.
I kind of wonder, why there's, you've got Minnesota, you've got Minnesota State, and you've got North Dakota, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. Two of those are going to have to go together in a regional, and North Dakota is obviously going to be in Grand Forks, or is it? Fargo. Sorry, they're in Fargo. Would they put Minnesota there? Would they put Mankato there? Would they put Minnesota and Mankato and Loveland? Wow. That's and none of these teams has had really any other. Mankato's had a great season, but the competition's been a little lower. Minnesota's been stuck with the Big Ten teams. It's very unpredictable what's going to happen here, Viggs.
If Minnesota can take care of business here and get a number 1 seed, they're going to Loveland.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what we want, right? So we avoid some of the big boys if we do that. Yeah.
Well,
We
somebody's
want
going
to
to have to
avoid
go
going
east.
to Fargo.
Somebody's going to have to go east.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think the NCAA is going to try to do this bus thing, but they wouldn't do that for a number one seed and say, okay, we want to bus everybody to the regionals and put 3 number one seeds in Fargo. They're not going to do that. One of these teams is going to have to go out to Loveland. And then at that point, it's a plane trip for anybody. So that bracket, that region is going to be kind of true to seed. So the better Minnesota does, the more of a chance that they might be playing, the 15 seed, someone like Lake Superior State or Bemidji State in Loveland.
True. But if all 3, North Dakota, Minnesota, and Minnesota State are in the top 4, they're all going to be number one seeds. One school is going to have to go east.
Yeah, one might go east, but I think they're going to have one of the Boston schools be an Eastern team, and we'll see what happens. But I do think Minnesota, that Wisconsin series, that's the bottom of their range of what they can do as a team. I don't even think during that series, Wisconsin got very good goaltending. And even talking to the players after the game, you could just tell some of them just wanted to beat Wisconsin so badly that they got away from their game plan. They're like, when I have a shot, I want to take my shot. That's just like a poker player sitting down. When they see someone push in, they go, well, I've got a high pocket pair. I want to go in too. And then they see ace king and they've got 10-10 and they're dominated. I think that's kind of the thing that was happening. And when you play against players like Caulfield and Holloway, you've got to be cautious. You got to say, he's got a big bet there. I think my team's better overall. I'm just going to fold this one, wait for my shot because I have a better shot coming when I have rockets and I'll take your stack, And that could happen if they play each other in the tournament because that's when the hand you want to win.
Go Ohio State, get one win this weekend. That would be great in Wisconsin.
Oh, could happen.
It's college hockey. You never know. I keep thinking I want Minnesota to still win the league on points, not win percentage. It's going to be tough, real tough. But, if Wisconsin gets a split this weekend, they're still behind Minnesota, and Minnesota can win the point race. 2 less games, we still beat you. That's what I'm thinking.
I'd like it.
Well, go ahead. Wait, go ahead. So you want to say something?
One more. What?
Oh, boy.
Motzko's yellow mask. Now, we've had the jerseys are just spectacular. Maybe the best jerseys in college hockey with the gold breezers. But the fact that he rolls in the yellow snow-colored mask, man, in a world of black, tidy, Armani masks, that is, you got to love Motzko. I mean, and it's just because they had some early season success.
He switched it up one time, didn't he?
I know, once.
I kind of think of Bob as the guy, he already had COVID this summer that Russo wrote about in The Athletic. And maybe he's just the guy. He's like, I just need this one mask. You guys, wash your mask, keep them fresh. I'm just going to use this one. I don't need a new one every day. This is the one I like. It's comfy. It's starting to form fit to my facial features.
Well,
he's just rolling with it.
I think you're right. I think that's been the same mask the whole way. I emailed him at one point. I said, I want that thing when the season's over. If things go the way they, can you imagine that? That would be that's a hell of a souvenir. If they got all the way through to the NCAAs and you got the yellow snow mask in your man cave there, not bad.
It's a good 2020 memento. You put it right next to the print up there.
Yep.
Hang it on the print. Get the new print with him and his mask on. It will be part of the print.
Perfect. People watching this, if you haven't seen Kinger's video where he's got Every Breath You Take with Bob, it's must watch.
We didn't even talk about that. The bevies with Bob too. You did last year.
Yeah, I reached out. I love Coyle at the athletic department. I had kind of written an article about some changes I was hoping to see, namely selling some beer at I guess we now call it 3M Arena at Mariucci.
Mariucci for me.
And the premise was Beers with Bob. Interview Motzko as long as it takes us both to drink a beer. We had to change the name to Bevy with Bob just so that you couldn't tell for sure if it was beer.
Oh,
But,
jeez.
but the U was just absolutely wonderful from Coil on down. First episode, we got to sit at center ice in Mariucci, and we both drank, I think, really the first 2 beers in the building before they started selling it on the main concourse. And then Bob's a goofball, man. He was like, I want to get off campus. I want to go to a bar, Stub and Herbs. And then he wanted to go ice fishing. So we went out on Bald Eagle. He had his own auger. He brought his own auger. Yep.
Nice.
We didn't catch anything. It was a little bit messy. It was snowing, but he's a good time. He's a blue collar dude, and it takes him a minute to loosen up because he was always nervous I was gonna try to like mess with him. I'm like, man, I'm the biggest gopher rube in the world. I think we're good when we're bad. Like, I mean, I'm not coming after you.
Oh boy. Yeah, that was a fun series. I really enjoyed that. So
yeah, he's a good one.
What's on the horizon now for you, John? What's up next?
I think the stuff I'm most excited about, I'm doing a thing now called the Hockey Parent Hall of Fame. If you haven't watched the first episode, it's pretty ridiculous. It's kind of like Dateline meets Drunk History.
Oh boy.
And I got the second nominee, so we're going to film him on Monday. He's an Eden Prairie guy, so we'll be taking care of them. And then I'm interested to see what happens with the state tournament. You know, the girls and the boys are meant to be together at the end of March. I don't know if there's going to be player introductions or if they're going to be wearing masks or they won't do it at all. So I'm kind of intrigued to see in a year with no fans. I'm imagining TV ratings will be through the roof. So I'm interested. The last time we were normal, I don't know if you remember, was literally the state tournament.
It was. Yep.
Charlie Strobel, Leiden Hill Murray, Mata Midai. I got on a plane to New York that Monday and everything was normal. And then by Wednesday, I think the NBA was shutting
down. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really excited to get the world spinning again. And I'm hoping that the state tournament feels good, even though it's going to be different and we get kind of going out there.
I think this is the year for the return of the music video.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the old music videos for the state tournament?
Channel 4 did them.
Love
Channel 4.
Love it. Oh,
I remember we had a camera. My Jefferson team won in '89. That was CCO was still doing it. We had a camera in my class. And of course I didn't get on TV, but I was still bitter, but that was the thing.
I'm curious about the mechanics of that deal because I think, as I recall, every team made a music video. And so I don't know if like somebody called the school and said, your song is Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me. And then like the AV teacher got everyone together and made a music video. Like, because it was they all did their own thing.
They did do their own thing, but it was CCO people, or at least production people, coming into the school, with their regular video cameras. And they were just they would get some scenes and hey, do this or do that. And that was it. I only saw just that portion of it, in their, I would say, typing class.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, but they got some. What can you do? What can you do? Well, what I'm looking forward to is a little overtime here. So we're going to wrap up the show here. John, I want to thank you for coming on. We're about to have some fun in overtime. And for you, those of you listening on the podcast, check us out sometime live on YouTube. We have fun in overtime. We've gone over an hour with Frank Mazzocca. We went over an hour with Todd Molesky and our boy Cappy for Ohio State. We have a little fun in overtime. So check us out live sometimes. And, on this video that I post, the live video, you can also catch us that. I usually keep it up for about a week and then I take it down. But, Viggs always introduces his beverage of the week. So, check us out live. It's a fun time. But John, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, love what you guys do. Go Gophers.
Go. I like the thought of that. Go Gophers. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of the GPL podcast. We'll once again, thank John for coming on and joining us. We'll be back next week with a preview of the final regular season series against Michigan. For those of you currently watching live, we're ready for overtime. We're primed for it. For the rest of you, we'll be back next week and to preview that series with Michigan. Thanks for listening.
Did you get the bottle pop there on the audio for the closing credits this time?
I didn't hear it.
I'm gonna get some ice.
Oh, good call. Here, let me switch you over to speaker, and then you can say something, Viggs.
Yeah. So the pour tonight, our voters have selected a Summit Imperial Russian Stout.
Russian stout.
19th century style export stout. It's from 2019. 10.5%, which for Summit, that's really big for them. Even some of their other stouts never really went above 10. So this is a big one for them. This was bottled October 25th, 2019. So it's been sitting in my basement for a little bit, waiting for a special occasion. I feel like Kinger is kind of a Summit guy. I don't know if I'm reading this right, but I thought I had to throw some St. Paul pride in the poll this week.
I feel the 651. I'm gonna do. I don't know if they can hear me. I don't know how this works, but I'm doing a little peanut butter whiskey here. Oh man!
Right from the bottle? Are you doing a bottle pour?
No, I got one of those good square ice cubes.
Ooh, fancy ice.
I didn't have much left, but I got some.
Bottle kill.
I need to go get my beverage. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves.
So how does overtime work? What do you get questions and stuff from people, or we just banter?
Yeah, our chat in YouTube is still live. And
Nice.
So our people on there will chip in some questions and things like that. Just trying to see. We got a guy in there nicknamed Rube who liked my poker lesson on the Wisconsin.
That made me feel really good about like when I asked that question, I felt like Jupiter, he didn't make me feel safe and sound. But then when you did all that, I don't know what you were saying or what it meant, but I felt like, I think you were saying we're going to be okay next time we play Wisconsin.
We've got the better players overall and the better team. You just can't give it away. It's like, do you play a lot of poker or no?
No, but I like the phrase when I have rockets, I think you said. I think if you just use poker speak all the time, you sound super cool.
I'll try to do that a little bit more. I'll throw that in there.
It's like Doc Holliday.
But yeah, so we're pretty free flowing during the OT. Whatever's on your mind. I almost wanted to bring my holiday card and get a score from you after listening to your podcast, but I got a little scared because I do put a little bit of a letter shortened on the back. I feel like it's important to update, my 125 people that I don't even get a card from every year. So I feel that.
You want to know the criteria for a holiday? You want to, the whole system, right?
I know the system. I think our listeners could use a little brief overview, the Cliff Notes version.
So I'm super into, I guess what I would call Christmas cards, but nowadays it would be called a holiday card. And the reason I like it is it's the one time a year to show the world that you have your act together as a family. And we all judge everybody, even though we tend. I mean, it's like instant. Like it's like, oh, he's gained a little weight, or that dog's not very cute. But I have a system. So here's your system, 5-pointer. Ready? Professional photography. You need someone to take the pictures. Cardstock. It's got to be on a nice. It's got to sound like construction paper. It can't sound.
Can't be the glossy.
No, not the old Sears. Remember when we were kids? It's a rectangle and then a white square with a holly on the bottom.
Can't have that one.
Can't be like that. I like a concept of some sort. Maybe the wife's got you all wearing, matching chambray shirts and Hilton Head. I like a little, like what's our theme? Delivery date. So don't be sending a Christmas card out on the 23rd of December in the
How about Valentine's Day?
Brutal. Got one of those this year. You want to be right after Thanksgiving, shirt tucked in, hair parted, everything's perfect. And what was my fifth one? I don't even remember. Like, some sort of conversation piece. Like,
not maybe a letter. You didn't like the letters either.
Don't like the year in review letter. Tough to do it right. I've seen it done. I have seen it done, but you can get braggy, you can get sad, you can get political. It's quicksand, I think.
There's a lot of landmines out there with the holiday card.
So Viggs, you went with the beer. John, you went with the whiskey. I'm going with the local wine. This is Fox Run out of the Morgan Creek Vineyards down by New Ulm. Deliciousness.
So what kind of wine is that? Like a cab?
Is it like a Marquette? It looks a little lighter.
It just says a sweet red table wine. That's all it says.
Oh,
could be anything.
That's a good.
I like it.
That's a good one.
I like, and plus I like that it's local too. So
that's awesome.
And I can drink it like a fish too.
I've spoiled myself forever by living in Northern California for a year and a half and going to Napa and Sonoma every other weekend before kids. So now I think I know enough about wine to have a cellar, and I post about my wine selections and food on Instagram.
People love that. Do you do a lot of smelling before you, like, to get your nose in there? And
oh yeah, I get a good, swishy swish pour.
Now you sound like you're from Edina, Viggs. Jeez.
Hey, Northeast Minneapolis. I live where Diezik grew up.
Mighty Ducks.
The Mighty Ducks. My hockey association I coach, we are the Ducks.
How did you end up being the Mighty Ducks?
Well, I mean, we're the Titans. I think at some point, the people in North and Northeast did not want to be with the Storm because the Storm are pretty big budget compared to us. Like their association fees are twice as much. They go to tournaments in Roseau and Duluth and Chicago and things like that. And we're just like, oh, maybe we'll go to Albert Lee or, Austin or something like that. But it's a little more low key. We're at Northeast Ice Arena in Augsburg for most of our stuff. We're outdoor at Wyndham Park.
Yep.
We keep it pretty local. We want the kids on the ice, not in the car.
How old are your kids?
6 and 8. So I got a mini mite and a mite.
God,
youngsters.
I was at a Pee Wee game, this weekend, my business partner's kids game, and I hadn't been in a rink. You can't get in anywhere these days, and my kids are older. Oh man, it was fun to be in a hockey rink. I mean, the sounds and the dads just losing their minds. You have such a good ride ahead of you. Those Squirt and Pee Wee years are just really world class.
Are you dealing with parents yet, though, Viggs?
A little bit here and there. I'm pretty all in on ADM at this age. Keep it fun. Lots of small area games, some cross ice, some outdoors, lots of tag. I probably play about 2 hours of tag a week, which is good for my figure. And it keeps the kids invested and having fun. And so that's the key. You get people they want an A team, they want a B team. They want us to evaluate. They want us to go play other associations. And especially this year, I'm just like, let's just pull the reins back. We'll do some 3-on-3 events and stuff where you guys can come watch your kids score goals and Sally. But we're just trying to keep it simple at this age.
That's the way to do it. You got to keep it simple, man.
When I coached high school football, it was a little different. You get some emails and phone calls and voice messages and parents who'd want to talk to you before kickoff. I'm sorry, I have a game to coach here. Maybe you could set up a time and no 1 a.m. is not a time to call me.
Wow. Hey, Drew's in the chat tonight. How's it going, Drew? I see you in there. He was impressed that you became an East Sider after coming from Edina.
Yeah, we looked at the funny thing is Edina and White Bear Lake are similar in a lot of ways. They revolve around hockey. They got a downtown you can walk into. And when we looked at our house, it was, a bunch of rinks behind us and a little bit of land around us. And yeah, it was funny when I first went to White Bear, to the Hippodrome. I had these pants on, those hockey pants that say the name of your town down your leg.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I hate to say this because I am a proud Edina guy too, but I threw some white tape over the Edina because I just was like, I pretty quickly was like, okay, everybody really hates this. Yeah, I taped over just to kind of not have to talk about it. But
how'd you become a Gopher hockey fan?
two brothers, and I'm the oldest, and my parents went to the U, and so they would take us before we could drive. We would get dropped off at Station 19.
Oh boy.
And we would eat and walk into Old Mariucci, and it was just unbelievable. I mean, just that kind of balcony hanging over the net and the noise and the crowd, and then that period with Kraft and Crowley when Mariucci first opened, it was the best show in town. It was electric inside the new Mariucci when they first came, and I just got hooked. And then to get the payday, I was at Excel when they won the first one with Patolny, and it's just, I mean, besides Team USA, it's my favorite team in the world.
Did your family have season tickets when you were growing up at Old Mariucci? No?
No, I don't know. I don't know how my dad would get the tickets. I think he must have bought some partial pack and we would kind of pick the games. But so my age, I'm like the Hankinson boys were around my age. And then my class at Edina was like Zwackman, Wasley, Bonin's a good friend of mine now here in White Bear. So I got a really nice run of Gopher hockey, and I went to Boston College, but even though I went to BC, I couldn't cheer against the Gophers. This is a pretty common phenomenon, I think, is of people not being able to cheer against the Gophers, even when it's your alma mater, which is a weird deal. But yeah,
I went to Mankato.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you're so young, it's almost like the Catholic Church model or something. Like I can't take the Gopher stuff out of my head because it started with the both brothers when we were little kids.
Our boy Eric Brever wants to know what's the Orange Hat Society event about.
This is the video that Kinger was talking about.
This is the I apparently decided to make a 20-minute YouTube video in a TikTok world, but if you have the patience to watch it, that's the first Hockey Parent Hall of Fame inductee. And it's, I believe, until I see somebody top it, I think it's the best hockey parent story of all time. And I'm biased, but the gauntlet is down. If you can beat that story with the layers that it has, but to answer his question, it was a group of hockey parents from White Bear Lake Girls High School. Some cretin parents made fun of one of our dads because he was going crazy at a game and he was wearing an orange hat.
Oh, no.
And they were on the broadcast and they were just really giving him a hard time. And so somebody sent us the broadcast. And so we all made orange hats. So it was almost like Fight Club, whatever you call that, mayhem society. We were basically... Now you have 20 dads in orange hats going crazy. And it really escalated from there.
Oh, boy. Yikes. I need to do fun stuff like that.
How does the White Bear community take Bonin having his kids at Hill?
Ooh.
He's a very religious guy, and I think the choice was mostly about that. I know him well enough to give him a hard time, but that was really about being able to. I won't speak for him, but I think the Catholic education had a lot to do with it. So, I mean, what are you gonna say? At that point,
and maybe they wanted to win.
I was just going to say the easy reply is he wanted his kid to win a state tournament game.
No. That's not.
That's why we save it for overtime.
Go Bears. That's not nice.
Hey, you're a hockey guy. You can take it. If
I
you dish
can.
it, you can take it. It's all fun and games.
That's what we do. We back up the bus over each other, and we just we take it and we grin it and we try to top it. We wear orange hats and things like that.
He was a great college hockey player, man. Unbelievable. Watching him, I remember.
How they didn't win a title is just
Now you told the story on the podcast, which gave me again more. I'm just looking for reassurance. Somebody said Colorado College beat up that team pretty bad, and then, as I understand it, maybe Vigo that they make it to a Frozen Four after that tough loss.
They did. They kind of turned the talent and let their talented young players ascend in the lineup and get more responsibility. And some of the older players who weren't producing had to buy in and play more defensive roles. And they learned their lesson.
Would they lose to Michigan, BU, or I remember that was always the case back then, like Marty Turco every year. Well, that's good. I think I'm very excited to see. I remember so we won it in St. Paul, and then the next year we were in the national championship, and I remember some guys were talking about. I was young, and they said maybe we should go, and I was, we saw them win it last year. Now. I mean, I might be going down to, what did you say, Loveland? That must be Texas. I am.
No, Colorado.
Oh, is it Colorado?
Colorado.
It's out of Denver.
If you can watch these games, I'd be down for a road trip in a heartbeat. But is there going to be no fans in the regionals? Do you know what they're saying?
25%.
It's going to be dependent on local guidelines. The NCAA said they'll allow 25% attendance if the local health department will allow it. So they're trying to have fans in Pittsburgh for the Frozen Four. They're going to have these other sites. That's one of the reasons why they moved one of the regionals. I think it was from Manchester to Albany.
Yep.
Is because the Albany facility thought they'd be able to have fans. And so the NCAA is like, well, let's do it. So they're going to try to get people in the building. I know there's a joke in there that for a lot of these regionals, that's going to be about normal attendance for them. Except for Fargo.
Yeah.
But
what do you think about Boston College? I watched them a decent amount last year. Spencer Knight is spectacular in between the pipes. I mean, I think that's a team that I know they're ranked first or extremely high, but they don't get talked about a lot in this part of the country. And I got to think it's a tough go to get through BC this year as well.
Well, I think their goalie is rivaling LaFontaine for, production. Awesome. He's bigger and probably a little bit more athletic. I think Boston College doesn't have the defensive depth that Minnesota has, so that could be an edge in a matchup like that. But you look at some of their forwards at BC, and they're just as elite as what Minnesota has.
Yeah, no, but
they're a scary team.
Yeah, I agree. I think
you also got the Mankato goalie too, Dryden,
who gave up how many goals on 8 shots the other night? You know
what? That happens, but still.
It does happen.
They're a good team. They're bound to get their first victory in the NCAAs, aren't they? They've been the number one seed twice and they've lost, haven't they?
They've been the number one overall seed twice and lost.
Yeah.
They're due. I thought last year was their year. I felt bad for Hastings.
He's
a really nice guy too. Year. Like he and Motzko are just like cut from the same cloth. Like you can't help but root for guys like that.
I was a big fan of Hastings. Big fan of him when he was here, just that 1 year.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. I got to talk to him a lot when he was in the USHL, and there's just certain coaches that are they're awesome. I think Bob is. I really want him to get over the top. To me, like the fact that we've only won. When teams put the stars on the back of their neck of their jersey, and you kind of go, even if whether it's Boston College or Minnesota, you're kind of going, we're supposed to be the Alabama of hockey. I sure would like to have about 10, 11, 12 national championships. I guess Michigan must have the most, right? But that's all that matters. I would be so happy to reconcile that and just have the most national championships. Long ways away, but
would the national championship be tarnished this year because of the lack of teams playing?
No, I don't think at all. I think college hockey's in really good shape this year at the talent level. There's a lot of good teams. There's probably 10 really, really, really good teams. And I don't know that you can say that every single year.
I personally think they find a way to get both Boston schools the number 1 seeds out east. And either Minnesota or Mankato gets stuck as a number 2 and ends up having to play either in North Dakota or either, Minnesota or Mankato. They're going to do something there. I just have this feeling, Vigs.
I'm going to fill up. I'll be right back.
Go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think College Hockey News, as much as I've kind of been down on that website from year to year from what they do out west, I think they have it figured out pretty well for their ranking. And they've got BC at 3 and BU at 8. I think with BU only playing the handful of games that they played, you can't elevate them into it anywhere.
But if they keep winning, though, that's the problem. They're winning.
They keep winning, but I just don't say, ooh.
Yeah, look at that. What's he drinking now?
Okay, it's on the green.
Big Wood. This is a white bear.
Local.
Yeah. I could walk there. Apparently it's called Fine IPA. This has probably been in my house way too long. I'm not going to look for a born on date. I'll be okay. I can sue you guys, right? If something happens.
No. You're in your home. You should be safe. Just don't go out in front of the video cameras again. Oh, there he goes.
There you go. That's what I'm going with.
Oh, that's awesome. Nice.
This is a Maker's Mark Private Select. So one of my quarantine things that I've gotten into is brown liquor and a whiskey club. Like, you've heard of Pizza Elite? This is Whiskey Elite.
So they mail you a bottle every month or something?
No, it's like a club. And so, like, there's a couple leaders of the club and they go out and pick barrels. So, like, they went to Kentucky and tasted all these different Maker's Mark combination barrels and picked these staves. They picked 1 baked American pure, 2 4 seared French cuvee, 4 Maker's 46, and 1 roasted French mocha stave. And so they add those to the barrel, and then the whiskey club gets the entire barrel. It gets distributed to a liquor store. Then we all go to that liquor store and they hold the bottles for us.
Wow.
So,
between the poker stories and this weird whiskey club you're in, Vigo's like super cool, huh, Jupiter? He's got decent hair, I have to say.
Yeah.
I like it. It's good. Yeah. I gotta get a better look.
He introduced me to the whiskey a couple of years ago. I really wasn't a whiskey guy until we had one night in Duluth. Would you say, Biggs?
Yep, one night in Duluth. I got a contact up there who's a retired banker, and he is now a distiller, and he's done a lot of research. He's got a lot of research. He's got a wall of whiskey in his bar basement, and we sampled maybe 13, 14, little 1 ounce pours. It was good.
Vigo, could you ever organize a smoky room, Gopher hockey related poker game? Okay.
Oh,
so I might be able to I could beg Matsko to come. We'll get Mazako, you two, just a bunch.
Mazako would come. He'd totally come.
Get the Great Gatsby, Joe Dziek to come, and that'd be good. I think that'd be kind of fun.
It would be kind of fun. I'm up for that. I'm game.
Frank was saying last week that he was going to have a party at his house this summer just to get the gang back together.
Pasta night, right?
Yeah.
God, Frank and that radio broadcast to me is a true relic, like Lake Wobegon levels of specialness to listen to those guys on the radio. I won't know what to do when that isn't the way it is. I just love it.
Well, we even got, Frank even said last week, we think they've gone the right direction in TV. Obviously this year's a little weird, but I think Charlie's a great choice for the future of Gopher hockey on local television. Radio. Well, but the thing is, he's great on there, but so was Glenn, because you never knew what Glenn was going to say. You never know if he was going to drop an S-bomb or whatever. Frank's a little more professional. He helps out Wally a bit. Before, Wally was on his own for all commercials, everything. He was doing all the work, and Glenn was just along for the ride. So I think having Frank there has really helped Wally quite a bit in just the whole production of it. But you're right. They're two old hockey guys. They've been around forever. They've got the stories. They were around obviously they were around Glenn. They were around Don. They're around all these coaches for decades.
Well, just if you watch that interview with the Hankinsons with Frank, you can tell the respect the Hankinsons have for Frank in that. I know Deutsch called it out, but when I watched it, I was like, they trust Frank, and Frank does them right. And he takes care of the players. When he goes down to the media and grabs somebody, he's like, "Hey, can I get you for intermission?" They do a great job with that and getting guys to show some character and, what a college athlete's like these days.
And, I remember Casey was at Frank's TV retirement party.
Yeah.
Back at Tom Reed's. A lot of players came back for that. Paul Martin was there. I mean, the Hankinsons. I mean, for me, for a lot of us, Frank Mazzocco is kind of go for hockey, because we grew up with him. When the North Stars left, it was go for hockey on TV in the 90s. It was Frank Mazzocco. It was Frank Mazzocco and Tom Reed for many, many years, and then the Wooger. And
Frank did all the Blue Line Club stuff too. So like all the boosters, all the alums, all the visiting coaches, that's Frank there emceeing everything and leading those events. And that was kind of neat over at Jack's Cafe.
Yeah.
Those were fun.
Now that we've been locked in our homes for a year and a half, I'm going to go to everything. I'm going to go to like Dunker's breakfast, and like, I'm going to be like reading Shooter's column and be like, I'm going to go over that today, honey. Because I'm just itching to get out. Hey, I got a question about a guy that just is a mystery to me. So when I was growing up in Edina, Tom Nevers was like the king of the high school, and he was such a good both hockey and baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
And his kid is getting a lot of ice time, and I remember him from the Edina high school team. But I don't know what he is as a player yet. I think he's kind of a little bit like I talked about Castor, where it's like you're burning a year, like you're putting him in there to swim, and then all of a sudden, it's just gonna go. But do you know much about him? What do you see from him?
Well, what I want to know is, does Ben Clymer owe Dad money or something? Because Ben Clymer is always propping up Nevers on the broadcast.
The son or the dad?
Well, he's always propping up the kid, obviously.
Well, the dad.
And I'm like, well, he hasn't done it. He's like, I just noticed he talks about him a lot. I'm like, well, I guess he's about the dad's age. Clymer is. I even say it on Twitter. I'm like, what is his obsession with Nevers?
Abbey Street Financial.
Is that it? Do they all work at the same place? I have no idea.
There's got to be something. I think Mason's got potential. I even saw him in the USHL as a guy who could create space and change angles and score.
He's very involved in the games. I mean,
right. He's there, but like going from that to creating space to score goals is a whole nother level. And I just think sometimes when you get put in a spot where he is, that's not going to happen. Jack Perbix is a nice player, but he's not going to be creating space the way Sammy Walker, Ben Myers, Scott Reedy do. If he could play with those guys for a whole season, you'd probably see a different stat sheet. But when he's playing the role he is on a line like that, this is kind of a, swim in the deep end year for him. And you just hope that he's able to do that and not lose what made him good. Because I've seen this with players before. They have so much skill in high school and going back to Bantams. They've always been the best player. They've always been able to score. They've always had success. And then they move up a level and they get put into a role where they're a secondary player and they have to play smart. They have to play percentages, and they lose that scoring touch that they had, and they never find it back. Like Ryan Lindgren was always a point producer. He goes to the development team. He supports Adam Fox, and that just became his path from there on. He had to be a gritty, hard defenseman. He was no longer going to be a scoring defenseman. He just lost it. So you just wonder, what path is he going to be on? You know, Jackson Nelson, he had a chance to go to the development program, but he would have been a fourth line guy there. He probably would have tanked his career because he just would have stopped developing and he would have turned into a career bottom guy. Now, you know, at Sioux Falls, he got the chance to develop as a top six forward and gave him a chance to actually swim when he's had the opportunity this year. Now he's just trying to figure out, okay, I'm 6'5", 230. How do I play the college game?
So too early for Mason Nevers then?
Yes. I mean, if he was in a different role where he was a top six player, it'd probably look different.
How old is he? Did he not play a year of juniors? Did he jump right in, or how old?
He played 1 year of juniors for Des Moines, and he did okay there, but he would have benefited from another year. I think he signed his NLI early, and he wanted to be at Minnesota, and I think his dad wanted him to be at Minnesota, and they signed that NLI just so people would stop recruiting him, I think, and try to change his mind.
Now, if I remember,
he wanted to be there.
Didn't his dad first come to Minnesota, but then he played baseball instead, and then he ended up
he was
delaying his career, or he did play like at the U later on, didn't he?
He was roommates with Casey. Yeah, he came back when he was like a Chris Winkie. He came back and used some of his eligibility, but he was like a guy that played in the holiday tournament kind of deal.
Yeah, it wasn't. He never got back his hockey skill because he was definitely a baseball guy.
Yeah, he played that was after several years of minor league baseball. But,
maybe he's got one of those fabulous Casey Hankinson jerseys.
Casey's great. That's another nice guy right there. That jersey is classic. I got to ask him about that next time. It just came around, right? Did you guys tweet it out?
Frank asked him about it because Casey was a guest on their, one of their pregame shows. He admitted to that was his jersey. It was him, and he
designed it. Yeah, I remember them saying that he was the designer.
Oh yeah.
I wish I designed this year's jerseys, man. Those are.
Well, we had a question in Twitter saying, "Are they going to wear those jerseys next year?" And I guarantee you, they'll just take the patch off, but they'll be wearing those jerseys for a couple of years, don't you think, Viggs? They don't just throw out a jersey.
It's always hard to know with U of M athletics and Gopher hockey jerseys. There's some budget constraints on things like that. It's incredible that that's the truth, but it is. That's one of the reasons why they had to abandon one of their other throwbacks, is they didn't have enough of them to outfit a team, so they just had to abandon it.
When we were doing the Motzko thing, his goal was he wanted to have one jersey that was a 10 out of 10 throwback, which I think you're seeing this year, and then he does have appetite to do something super progressive, kind of like PJ's done with the football, which is harder to hit, right? It's like Maryland and Oregon, and but he thinks there's another look for the program that is everything you love about Gopher hockey, but very kind of futuristic. So that'd be something to see, but I haven't.
I love the gold shells. I love the gold shells on the pants.
Oh, great.
They're starting to get a little worn right now. They're starting to get a little worn because they're just covers.
Yeah.
Still, I love them.
I like the look.
Okay, John, as a marketing guy, what in the hell can we do to get the U to make official jerseys?
Yeah, what's going on with that? So I just was saying that when we signed up, Fanatics had a thing where you could buy this year's jersey or some version of that. And as I understand it, I didn't buy the right one, but I bought it. It hasn't shown up yet. But so you're saying the U does not sell a replica or authentic jersey?
They do not sell authentics. They haven't. Well, they don't. And that's just it. There's people higher up at the U who don't believe they could sell them.
Oh, they would sell a lot of them.
And that's just it. You know, the last year at the WCHA, somebody in the marketing department got smart and said, "Hey, we're going to order 30 extra jerseys this year. And we're going to, some of us got a hold of one of those." And then they gave the rest of the bookstore, and the bookstore marked them up $100 and they sold them all. Boom, gone. $100 profit, just like that. And it's been a long frustration with you because you've seen some of the U jerseys over the years. Sometimes they get the M wrong. I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty brutal to get the M wrong.
Well, we could. I'll email some of those guys. It'd be kind of cool if they did 100 of this year's jerseys, 100 authentic jerseys from this season that are available for sale.
But the thing is with that is that like they had to do it at the beginning of the season. They ordered a bunch of extra jerseys. I mean, it had a WCHA patch. It's got the fight strap. It's an official jersey. But from what I understand, it's hard to get them from Nike, isn't it, Viggs?
Well, Nike doesn't even make them. Like Nike doesn't make the jerseys. They have a third party. What I think they should do is just partner with Kyle and Vintage and have him source the jerseys. They're always really, really high quality and very close to what they're actually wearing, and sell those at the Gold Country or at the arena.
The only problem is Kyle's a one-man show. He would need help.
I think if he got to partner with the U of M on this and they turned to him for his supply chain, they would be able to figure it out for, at least 100 or 200 jerseys a year and see how that goes. And then maybe it opens up an opportunity. When you're looking at the U and their $140 million budget, this is a pretty small piece of that. And I think something that most people don't understand about college athletics is they're spread pretty thin in terms of people for handling this kind of stuff. And there's so much turnover that they're focused on PJ and Patino. Like they're not as focused on hockey. And you just look at the TV ratings from the Ohio State game. That's the highest rated college hockey game in a while. Yes, there's a passionate niche of fans about it, but it's not as big of a driver as like football.
It's true, but this is one of the few schools of any that has 3 sports that profits money.
Yes.
I mean, and to treat the hockey program like this is pretty bad. I mean, we've seen the jerseys over the years. They're bad. And I pulled this one out tonight. This is from the late 90s, early 2000s. And it actually has the Nike swoosh on it. And it actually says it's from Nike. So they did do some decent jerseys in the early 2000s. And then I remember even doing a blog about it on my website in the late 2000s, where the jerseys they were selling were just brutal, Viggs. And you look at this year's 100th anniversary. It's got the Big Ten logo, and then it's got 2 shoulder patches with the 100th anniversary. Well, that's not how the jersey looks. The jersey's got 1 patch on the shoulder here, not 2 patches on the breast, I should say, up the upper breast, and not 2 here. So they didn't even duplicate what the actual jersey was.
I think that's what you get when you partner with Fanatics, and that's what all the colleges are doing. So,
and the sad thing is, you look at North Dakota and how well they've done their jerseys over the years.
And you're saying, but Vintage is going to make this year's jersey?
He announced it about a week ago that he's going to be doing it, but he's going to have such volume, it's going to be tough. Because, like you said, he's a one-man shop.
How do you get on the list? I picture like this little guy in a shoe, like making one jersey at a time.
One stitch at a time. He doesn't even have the singer. He's just
he does go with quality jerseys, and then he has them manually made. Isn't that pretty much what it is, Viggs?
Yeah, I mean, you just work with people who've got the experience in making jerseys. It just takes a while.
I mean, some of the jerseys we've done in the past, even for our Rubes, our Rubes red jerseys, the person who did the stitching for some of those was the person who does the stitching for the U.
Right. So it's a skill. If anyone out there is looking for another side gig, a little hustle, hockey jerseys.
It's a sad state, we're the Yankees of hockey, and our jerseys are terrible. But we've been talking about it for weeks. We've been talking about it for years on the podcast. There isn't a season go by we don't talk about how bad the jerseys are.
Well, this season I think they're.
Well, I should say how the replicas and the ones you can buy.
Yeah. The versions we can buy are bad. Yeah.
Yes. Which is why I love my official. I got a road jersey for the last year at the WCHA. Boy, the fabric on that's great. The color's right on. It was a jersey. It was one that was part of the original order for the team that year. It's just it didn't have the numbers, and I got it for cost.
That's awesome.
Funny story about the jerseys. The players actually have to buy them if they want to keep one when they graduate or leave the U. I just think that's crazy. And they're like $200 a jersey to buy. And if they don't buy them, then the school will sell them at their warehouse.
Or keep using them for another player.
Well, eventually they don't have enough for a set. And so they retire the set and they put them on sale. Like the last equipment sale I went to, like I think Casey Middlesett's jersey was there. You know, he didn't want to buy it. Someone did.
When did they do that?
They usually do it like August. And, you know, they put it at the PAV and they have all this stuff out. So like I went and got like, I go get my workout gear there. So I get like the compression shirts and shorts and stuff. I'm a bigger guy. I'm like a 6'3" offensive line type guy. I've got my college football helmet up there from St. Olaf. Nice. And I get a bunch of football workout gear to wear. And so I've got my, you know, win the bacon type stuff, you know, from the weekly stuff. And I was like, I'm going to get some PJ Fleck here, you know, this summer, get some elite wear. Because of COVID, they had to cancel the sale this last year. So there's going to be a big sale coming up once COVID ends. So Gopher fans, stay tuned for that. Cause you'll be able to buy skates, sticks, jerseys, shoes, all the gear.
But John, you know, listen, marketing. I mean, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. And what it sounds like, they're just fearful of, we do much of these, you know, official jerseys. We're not going to be able to sell them. We're going to take a big loss and that's clearly
it takes planning. It takes more planning than money. It takes planning and someone signing off. And at the U, that's a hard thing to do.
It's even more complicated with the, you know, sunsetting the track team and the tennis team. And I mean, I was trying to do a second run of bevy with Bob, and they're not spending with everything that's going on. They're just not spending. Nothing extra is happening because it's inappropriate, you know? So I do think it's a little unique. Once we get past this, we'll see what happens, but they're really in a weird spot, you know, no fans.
But it's been that way for quite a few years. It's worse now. I mean, when I first started covering the team down at Mariucci, 2006, 7 through 10, I mean, several times a year, they'd bring in pizza and food and things like that. That is long gone. All that extra dollars goes to the big fund, and we don't see that anymore.
When you got to build an outdoor track and field and an athlete's village and a golf team practice facility and fix the HVAC system at the natatorium and all this stuff. I mean, they have $200 million in debt that they have to pay for. And they just got handed another capital project with the COVID budget. You know, they're gonna have to take out a bridge loan of like $40 or $50 million here to cover the budget this year. They're in a tough spot. It's not like they can just run a deficit as a public university. They're gonna have to take a loan out and figure it out. You know, they've had to lay off a bunch of people. It's tough times over there. Like I work for the university in IT, and it's a challenge right now to make budgets and keep departments together and figure things out. It's not forward thinking. Let's see how we can lay out some money and hope it works out.
I liked some of the last couple years, you know, seeing them trying stuff. You remember when they would do the little tent out front of Mariucci selling beer, and it would always be like the worst weather in the world. I felt bad for them, but you know, beer sales being added. I just heard from somebody that they're doing a thing on the ice this year, which sounds pretty cool. You guys have probably seen it. I haven't, which is when they announce a player, if he's number 21. They show every single player that's ever worn that jersey
Yep.
on the ice. And I think that's really great. And I know from alumni that Bob has almost been like when the Blackhawks fixed their franchise, it's been that level of repair with the alumni. Like he's really reaching out to the alumni and starting to make the Gopher family again, which that's worth a lot, I think.
And honestly, Lucia let that go. Lucia damaged that reputation to the point where at the end, Paul Martin was the only one even speaking with him and wanting to donate to the program. It was pretty bad, wasn't it, Viggs?
It was pretty bad. They were trying to like get people to sponsor the lockers in the new locker room. And you had people responding back to the Golden Gopher Fund people and the fundraising people like, when Don leaves, call me. Then maybe I'll give money for that. But I'm just not comfortable doing it right now. And it just got so toxic. And, Don was a pretty good hockey coach, but he was not a great CEO. Like PJ Fleck is your perfect CEO. Like he projects the right image. He delegates, he handles all that stuff pretty much flawlessly. There aren't a lot of guys like that in hockey, and Minnesota hockey needs someone kind of like that. And Bob pulls it off because he's so blue collar and he's so approachable that it's all coming back together. Like the last practice I saw was Bob taking his skates off, coming off practice to come up and sit with Charlie Strobel and say, "Hey, thanks for coming to campus."
Yeah.
He's up there in his socks and, he's like, "Oh, Rabs has got practice. Don't worry. We might not even play this weekend anyway. How you doing? Great state tournament." And I'm just sitting there going, Bob is a personal guy. Don, I don't think he would have done that. Don would have been like, "Hey, Grant, can you go up and do that?" And Grant would go back to the locker room and take off his skates and then come back and,
I've got a question.
Not the same.
Go ahead.
I've got a question. How much is losing the Wooger hurt of the program? Obviously, the Wooger last few years, he wasn't mentally capable, but when he was, doing a lot of television, things like that, I think he was an important person for the program, and that we kind of lost that when we lost the Wooger.
Yeah. He was almost like our, hockey is a sport that tends to try to squeeze the personality out of it. You remember when Ovechkin scored 50 and warmed his hands on the stick, and everybody was so upset about that. And when you get a guy like Wooger, it's just gold because they're real and they're fun and you never know what's going to happen. And we had an era where there were a lot of guys like that. Surdich up in Duluth, Wisconsin. There were a bunch
Jeff
of
Sauer,
Surdich.
I like Jeff Sauer. He was at Frank's retirement party.
They were all real hockey guys, like you said earlier. Mm-hmm. And now you get a lot of robots and it's a little more stiff. That's what I like about the radio broadcast is Frank and Wally remind me of a different era, where it's just, I used the Lake Wobegon phrase, but it's just like, you don't understand it unless you're from here. Who's this guy? Well, that's the Wooger. Don't ask any more questions. Just trust us. It's good. I mean, but we don't have that. I mean, I don't know how you get that again.
I mean, Wooger could go to Grand Forks and they would all yell Wooger.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think who we could make that person be now.
I know it's not Frank. They hate him up in Grand Forks. But you think about it, at least Motzko is more of that. He's a hockey guy. You got Hastings down in Mankato, who is, man, he's such a hockey guy. I mean, Frank told us a story where a couple of years ago, they were playing Mankato. Hastings was in town. He's down there with his granddaughter wanting to do stuff. Hastings comes walking by and says, "Oh, let me get a picture of you two." This is right before a game. He's, "Oh, come on over. Well, let me get a picture of you two." He gets out his phone. He takes a picture of Frank and his granddaughter at the hockey game before the game. And one thing that Frank was like, could you imagine Don doing that? And he was like, and I'm like, no, I really couldn't. And, you see somebody like a Hastings or a Moscow, they just seem more of that old school kind of guy, not on the Wooger level, but, I think of it, I wouldn't have minded having Hastings here as a coach. I think it would have been a perfect fit, just like Moscow is. But Lucia at the end there, yes, he did great early, but I think it was kind of time for him to go. But we are kind of losing those hockey guys, the Wooger, Glenn, even Hastings and Moscow are kind of, they don't make them like that anymore.
I think you're right. Everything's gotten a little more robotic, and it's like the old joke when you interview a hockey player and the puck's in deep, and they say that's kind of what's happening with coaches. You think of Jacques Lemaire. I mean, Jacques Lemaire was just, God, I would listen on the radio to his post game, and I remember there was one time somebody, Brad May jumped Kim Janssen in the playoffs, and then they asked Lemaire about it. He says, he wants to fight. He picked someone that doesn't like to fight. We have fighter. He's the biggest one on the team. Bogard, whatever. And then when he got his eyes fixed, they said, well, Jock, what? He said, I see too much. I mean, it's like Slapshot. I mean,
I want to go back. I want to go back to the doctor and get my eyes back the way they used to be. I don't see too much anymore. I sleep better. I dream better. I'm happier. My wife likes me more.
If you listen to KFAN, I used to love the Arjak thing.
Yeah,
the Arjak thing when they're making, I got Booch and I've got this guy and I got. They were just imitating him, and they imitate him because he was a great hockey guy. I mean,
my dad got season tickets to the Wild, and we would always park up by the cathedral because we're old school like that, and we like to get our exercise in, walk down the hill, go to the game. We would it was a mission to get back up the hill and in our car by the time Jacques took the mic for the post game, and we would listen to that on the ride home. And it was always special and fun. And he was just so character driven. That was just fun radio.
Well, that little bit you just did there, that is literally what he said.
Oh yeah. That's why it's a great bit.
It seems like you're making you're doing an SNL version of Lemaire, but that was actually probably exactly what he said. I park in that same lot where the guy up there is amazing. When you park, he's super talkative, up on the top of the hill. And yeah, I love that spot. And then you can really zip in and out of Excel from up there.
Yeah, that's where I parked for the tournament too. I was up in that area and in and out.
Let's see, we always parked in the ramp there at the X because I'd get free parking with
deadly. That's a bad spot to park unless you can get some of those people.
The thing is, it's not a great spot to park. But when we were there for the Final Five and stuff like that, we'd be there for post game interviews, things like that. So by the time you get out of there,
that's different. Like when you're there as a fan,
that's
parking up top is easy in and out. Go by some places up top. Stop at Fabulous Ferns, get a jumbo, maybe get some.
We used to
Mediterranean.
We used to go to Tom Reed's after the Final Five stuff, or the hospitality suite down at the old Radisson, which was a lot of fun. Somebody from the university boosters would rent the space downstairs in the Radisson, and we'd go over there and
that's a different experience than I think Kinger was used to. Kinger, do you remember the diving place up on Cathedral Hill by Moscow on the Hill? It's now Red Cow, but there used to be
I've been to Moscow on the Hill, which is a great time.
Yeah, 50 shots of vodka and interesting clientele. That's where I walked by there after the World Cup of Hockey, USA Russia game. And someone came up to me and said, "The miracle is over." Like, I
Like
love that.
Panarin with Putin right now.
Right.
Yeah,
Did you ever-
Careful.
Did you ever go over to the hospitality suite though, Viggs?
Yeah, I went there a few times. I wasn't as into the inside back then. I was just kind of a trying freelance journalist, trying to figure out how to make my niche. Because I'd done journalism in college and my first job, but then I kind of got into this other thing and I was trying to find my way back into journalism. So I was always kind of like on the fringe of being in on that. So I was there, but I didn't know everybody like I do now.
I remember leaving there at 4 a.m. one night.
On Easter Sunday.
It might have been Easter Sunday. Yes.
I remember that too. It was fun.
You know,
Safe.
because, you know, eventually the referees would show up. And if a referee falls, linesman or whatever, during the game, he has to buy a round. So one of the linesmen, his wife came in and bought everybody a round of shots at about 2 a.m. There was a reason why we were there till 4.
Were you guys in St. Paul when we won it the first time of the back-to-back?
I was not.
Vigo?
I was a senior in college, so I was not there. I was doing my own thing.
So I got into the game on a press pass with a buddy. I was not pressed, but he had 2 spots.
Wow.
And so you can't cheer in the press box. You guys know this. And so it takes everything in my power not to cheer. Nice work. But I can hear underneath us, I think it would have been, I don't know if it was Glenn and Wally or Frank and Wally, but the radio.
Glenn and Wally.
The radio booth is underneath us. So I can hear them broadcasting. I can't cheer. And when he scored that goal in overtime, I swear to God, I thought the roof was going to blow off the stadium because we're up high and it was like this mushroom cloud of noise. I've never, and then we got to go out and it was snowing that night and we went to some bar. I don't even know where we were, just down the street. And it was all Gopher fans and there's pizza and people are walking up to each other's tables. And if you had a pizza, somebody might just grab a slice of pepperoni right out of your pizza and you didn't even care. You'd rub their head or whatever. And then it was the most communal. It was awesome. And my buddy that drove me down there that night, he was a Devil fan and they had won a few cups. And I said, well, is it ever the same after you win? Like your team does it all the way? And he goes, yeah. He goes, all you want is to do it again.
Now I was so into Gopher hockey then that I just couldn't bear going down there and being disappointed.
Well, it was ugly until Kowalska with the Polish leap.
You know, you talk about cheering in the press box. The Frozen Four that North Dakota, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Duluth, 2011. When Michigan won that game over North Dakota, there was audible cheering in the press box. That's how much hate there was for North Dakota. I was up there. I distinctly remember. That's the one where Michigan scores late, and you've got that fan giving double fingers, and you know it was in all the pictures. I got a picture of it from about 300 feet away, but there was audible cheering in the press box. People were so happy that North Dakota wasn't going to the national title game.
There was a lot of cheering at the Minnesota game too, and they kept coming over that loudspeaker that you can only hear in the press box. And every time somebody cheered, it was, a reminder, this is a working press box. There's no cheering in the press box. But yeah, there were numerous, because there were a lot of homers just in there for the game.
I remember a time at Mariucci, late 2000s. We called him Night Times Bob. He was a guy who did some kind of local stuff for the Night Times, I guess. We call him Night Times Bob. He would once in a while just yell out. And this is when, right before Tyler Hirsch left the team for the final time.
Oh, wait, that's another moment that I still don't quite understand.
Tyler Hirsch, he was yelling at Tyler Hirsch. And he just yelled. And the funny thing is, he was right, because that was the night that Tyler Hirsch went to the penalty box. His penalty expired and he spent about 3 or 4 seconds still in the penalty box, didn't come out. And it was just, what are you doing? Move your feet. I mean, he was like, yell. I'm like going, dude, you're in the press box. You have to be a little more professional. But the thing is, we were all thinking it, though. It's like you could obviously tell something was wrong with Tyler Hirsch. And this was the second time. This was after his whole XL Energy Center bit, which I am still very regretful for putting that video out.
I'm sure you guys we got to shut this down at some point, but I had this weird era where my brother was a UND student. He's a pilot for Delta. And so we decided to go up to North Dakota every year for the Gopher Away series. And we picked the Jason Blake era. So
oh boy.
We went, I don't believe we won a game until maybe his senior year. So 4 trips up there, swept every time. Old Ingolstadt. It was unbelievable. And that was I think the handshake fight was up there, right? With, what's the guy's name that went after, started the fight?
Forbert?
No.
No.
So well, it depends on what you're talking. More recently, it was Ben Blood who started the fight with Ambrose and Rao.
Yep. And this one's the older one. It was, you have it right.
Forbert?
That was a North Dakota guy, and the Gopher was he didn't play a lot. Oh God, I was like, I love this player because he just lost it in the handshake line. We had been swept again, and I want to say his name was like Wally Marvin, but that's not right. But that was back in the Weibel Factor years back then.
Weibel Factor. There was a website for that too, wasn't there?
Yeah.
John Weibel. Wow. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put away this whole bottle. Wow. I am definitely
I feel like I need just like a little taste of something different. Just give me 1 second. You guys got 10 more minutes?
Oh hell yeah.
I'm
I'm almost getting my bottle gone here, Viggs.
We'll go till 11:30 when you finish your line.
Okay,
I got to find out who this player was.
All right, you find out. I'll be right
Well,
back.
if it's old Engelstead, it's got to be kind of a ways back.
Well, how old are you guys compared to me?
I'm 48. I'm older than you.
And how old is Vigo?
I think Viggs just turned 40. He's younger. He's got young kids. My kids are just younger than yours, but mine's like 17 and 20. But yeah, I didn't make a trip up to Grand Forks until about 2005, and it was the new place.
This is the one. 2000.
And it was fun because I've only seen them win up there, so that was fun. And the time I went up there was a big party at the Patolny House pregame, and that was fun because I go in there, and Patolny's mother recognizes me. I'm like, how do you know me? She goes, oh, you run that website, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, shit. And she's like, oh, come on inside. I want to show you. And she shows me his room. Yeah, grandma's staying in here right now. And then all his jerseys are lined up there. The game-winning puck from 2002 was there. And I had just had this little camera flip phone back then. Oh, boy, good times. Ryan Thompson? Is he really in the chat?
He's in the chat.
Maybe he knows.
It says message retracted. What did Tomp say that is not permissible? Wow. Stu Bickle?
No.
If you're talking the old Ralph, because the new Ralph, it was definitely Ambrose and Ben Blood, and that was within the last 10 years because he went after Ralph. What do you got there, Viggs?
I got a little Stag Junior.
God,
Fancy.
this is from your club.
No, this is from benefits from the club. This is something else, but this is an allocated bourbon from Buffalo Trace. George cheesesteak, high proof, lots of flavor, lots of barrel. vanilla, brown sugar, caramel, delicious.
Tom's did misspell Bickle. You should be ashamed, Tom's. Bickle was on the staff last year, and you got to be able to spell his name correctly, Tom's.
Barrel proof, unfiltered. It's a good one.
Oh, I'm definitely feeling because I didn't have much for dinner, and I'm almost through this entire bottle of wine.
I had some walleye tonight. It was fantastic.
I got a
Ambrose and Blood was not at Mariucci, Corey. That was at Grand Forks.
Vigo. This is one here.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, look at that. A whiskey club.
So I got a whiskey story for you. When I was early in my advertising career, I was driving billboards for Jim Beam, and so I had to buy a bunch of billboards in Claremont, Kentucky, which is where Beam's headquarters are. And one of the senior guys on the account told me, if you call, at this time Booker No was running the family. He's died now. And they said, if you call Booker, you can have dinner at his house, which is Jim Beam's old mansion in Claremont. And so I'm like, no way. So I call this phone number, and his wife answers, and she's like, oh yeah, when are you going to be coming through? Okay, I'm going to cook Cornish game hen.
Oh, delicious.
So my wife cooks a bag of peanut butter cookies. I show up at this mansion driving a rental car. I'm probably 24 years old. And Booker's like 300 pounds, overalls. Like, he's on the side of the Beam bottle, but
ding, 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 ding.
He is
And of the earth. Yeah.
He's a Bubba. He'd be Jim Beam's grandson. And when I get to the door, his wife answers, and she takes me into the room. And he's watching college football on this television set that's like 800 feet. It's a tube television, but it's huge.
Oh, geez.
And I hand him the cookies, but we're about to eat dinner, and he just takes a bag. He just starts eating them, and he just looks at me and he goes, "Hell yeah!" And then we go in to eat. We got a Lazy Susan, and so I'm kind of like disoriented, and I don't know what's happening. And when Booker wants me to eat more, he would just spin the Lazy Susan and put something in front of me and be like, eat some more hen, have some more hen, And he's drinking like crazy, shows me the smoker. And all those kids, every one of Jim Beam's kids, they basically run that place, and they diet like, it's like worse than an NFL lineman. I mean, they're
the life expectancy of running Jim Beam Distillery is tough.
I mean, they drink a bottle a day. They're entertaining. I mean, I've never forget. He smelled every piece of food before he ate it. So if it's cornbread, and he would eat it, and I'm like, God, it just made bourbon so cool, and always has been since then. Yeah. Booker's is his. You probably had that. That's a good one.
Yeah, I early in my days as a post-college grad, I had a buddy who had a connection with Jim Beam, and one of his kids apparently would go around the country doing these tastings.
Yep.
And it was at the Good Day Cafe, Bad Day Bar.
Yep.
On 394, and it was like a room in there, and we're tasting
bourbon.
all these. Huh?
That was the Kentucky Bourbon Circle, I think, that they were working for.
Yeah. And so they're like taking us through a tasting, and like this question came up is like, well, would you ever mix this with another thing? And he's like, my dad always told me if you like a whiskey and Coke and you make it with mine, it'll be the best whiskey and Coke you'll ever drink. And he's just like, go away, enjoy. But I didn't know what I was tasting back then.
Booker would always say, they say, how do you mix a drink, Booker? And he'd say, well, I like 3 fingers of whiskey, and I got fat fingers. Yeah, he was a gem.
I usually start with the whiskey and a little bit of splash of Coke. Usually the second one is just straight up way too much, but
Yeah, my friend up in Duluth, he's really into it, and he got me kind of turned into it. And I get my hair cut at the Dapper Wolf, and it's a place in St. Paul. And he's very into the men's barber technique. And before COVID, he used to give you a drink before your cut.
Like
And
Heine's Haberdashery. Yeah, that's
yeah,
Are you going to keep the flow going there, Veeks?
I think so. It's back to my roots. Like
I've
back
got a picture of Viggs with a flow down to about here at a Final Five.
Yeah,
It was
I
pretty
had
long.
long flow out the foot. I had long flow out the football helmet, and then I went to England, and it got longer, and I stuck with it for a while, and then I buzzed it up when I had kids, and life got hectic, and now we're starting to find our rhythm again, and I can grow it out.
I gotta say, John, I was watching that video with the ESPN, and when they were doing the slow mo of you doing the hair,
I still got it. Messy.
yeah, but for some reason the slow mo was just a little bit creepy.
Yeah, I look kind of like a basset hound or something. That's a very expensive camera. It's hard to look like an 18-year-old athlete. Trust me.
And now our phones do it even better.
Hey, what year did you graduate St. Olaf, Vigo?
01.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
My one of my good buddies played football up there, but he would have graduated 96. Chris Ennisvet.
No,
Missed him.
no. There's a White Bear guy. Are you a White Bear guy? Edina guy?
Edina, and then White Bear for about 20 years.
Sven Bjorklund was our big D end who was from Edina.
Okay.
He was a captain. I think it was my sophomore year. He was a senior.
Yeah, he probably played with my brother.
When you got a name like Sven Bjorklund,
Yeah.
you're just destined for St. Olaf and captaincy, I think.
Adonis.
Yeah. He's a big dude. He's like 6'6".
Yeah, I had some fun down in St. Olaf visiting. And J-term was always a time when you went to school out east. I would take the tour of the Mayak during J-term. It was great.
It's the wrong tour. During spring break, I did a tour of like Vanderbilt and a couple of schools in Ohio. It's good times.
And Jupiter, you said you went. Where did you go? You didn't go to the U.
No, I didn't go to the U. I got into U hockey when a few Jefferson players started playing there. I want to say it started with Tom Peterson back in the late 80s. And then obviously they had a ton of Jefferson kids in the mid 90s. Crowley's my all-time favorite player. No one can ever convince me any different because he was just magic back there on the blue line, and he was straight out of high school. Well, all those kids were.
It was different then.
It was a different era, but man, I've never seen, he was a 2-time All-American in 3 years. If he would have played his senior year, he would have been 3-time All-American. He would have been Hobie Baker winner. He's 1 point from the defensive point record, which Travis Richards has. Travis did it in 4 years. He did it in 3. He led the league in scoring. There's a reason why he was the player of the 90s on the WCHA this past week. All-time favorite player. I'm definitely biased, but he was a special kid.
Yeah, that was a great. They basically opened that new rink. I always paired him mentally with Ryan Kraft. I know Kraft's a forward, but both came in at the
same age, so they were
both
really good.
So good right out of the chute as freshmen.
And quite honestly, I think Crowley also had an advantage is that when he got there, Ryan Treble was already there. And he played with Ryan Treble in high school. And Ryan Treble, solid defenseman, he has a lot of points too, but he was the guy who could be his defensive partner because Crowley could go up and take a chance. Treble's back on D to cover him. And he was damn good on defense covering.
Yeah, I do hope they get it done this year. It would be been a really long time. I was thinking about that. Like, Michigan State won a national championship. I was just looking at it last weekend. It was like they had that really random one. with
Just after late 2000s, wasn't it?
Justin Abelcake or whatever.
Yep. And they won it real late too, didn't they? It was like late in the game. They got a couple of goals, and all of a sudden it was like, whoa.
So it is pretty amazing if you think like Wisconsin, Michigan State, all these teams have won national championships more recently than we have. I mean, that Union game was kind of haunted with the Ghost going crazy on defense, but I mean, when you get those opportunities, when you have a team good enough to win, you got to do it.
And they've definitely got one this year. When you have guys like Reedy back, guys like LaFontaine back, seniors, awesome. And then you get this influx of freshmen like they have. It's right there. It's right there for them.
But I would love, if we could keep all those defensemen for next year, though, 2 weeks. And next year when things are more back to normal and we're playing in North Dakota or stuff like that.
Well, it's almost like recruiting wise, like they're planning on that, which is interesting.
What happened to the Lucius kid? How far away is he from coming?
He just started playing again this week, didn't he?
He'll be here next year. He's going to be a first-round pick whenever they hold the draft, whether it's July or December. He's a first-round pick. Like his first game back, he scores 2 goals. Like
I watched him play a few times in Elite League. They came and played that national team played in the Elite League a year and a half ago. I was just shocked how many goals he scored, and I didn't even really notice him. It was Crosby-like, where you're like, I don't know if he's that good, and then you look and he's got 4 goals. Yeah, he knows how to fill the net.
Sure. I mean, he just knows how to find
siblings
space.
Too, Viggs?
Yeah, he's got a younger brother who's when he signed, he was like 5'3", 100 pounds, and you're like, what's going on here? He's actually had a really good year for the development team. Like he's one of their leading scorers and looks like a player, and he's grown. He's not going to be as big as his brother, but he's going to be legit size. Those 2 kids look good.
Where's the Snuggerud kid? Where is he going to play?
I don't think he can commit yet.
I heard
he's too young.
I haven't seen him, but I just heard he's just spectacular.
Yep. So they can't recruit him until this next year. And so they can't offer him until January of next year.
Is he U.S. team as well?
Yep.
Okay.
He's got kind of a weird birthday schooling year where they just, with the recruiting rules changed, like normally he'd be committed somewhere, but since they put these new rules in place, he's still uncommitted.
Who do you think's the most coveted player that's uncommitted?
Where's Hammy when we need him?
Yeah, it was the Chelsea guy, the defenseman, until he committed to Minnesota. He was the top D kid for his age group, and he committed to Minnesota. I mean, now it's probably Snuggerud or Strammel is another development team guy. Those are probably the 2.
Nice.
All right, John, question for you. We've been kind of faking this podcast thing for 10 years. What would you think? What should we do differently? Do you like our podcast?
You've gotten so much better. You guys used to, your technical issues were hilarious. Like years ago, because I listen all the time.
So did you ever hear the episode when my freaking smoke alarm detector went off?
I've heard all of it.
That was so good.
It would be like, because Gopher fans are Gopher fans. So if you got a good Gopher hockey podcast, people are going to listen, even if you have 5.
Yeah.
And I would tell buddies, I'd be like, yeah, it's a little busted, but it's, you know what they're talking about, and it's good. And I think my advice to you would be overtime is you need to turn the podcast upside down. And what I mean by that is, if you think about how we're talking now, and it's hard to do because I'm not great at a podcast either. You guys have had a lot more success than I have, but I think part of what's really fun is when you get loose, you let your hair down and you're just kind of talking.
Yeah.
I think people really like that. So I would encourage you, it might be another podcast called Overtime. And you've got GPL, which is kind of straight ahead, get your vitamins on Gopher hockey. But then you've got this weird overtime thing that you can download if you're if you want to really kind of see a different side of your guests, I don't know. I think like I've been watching Ryan Carter as the color guy for the Wild, and he's a white bear guy, and I know his personality, right? And I know he has the potential to really be the color guy for the Wild for a long time if he can really get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But it's even when I was the first 20 minutes of this podcast, I'm just I don't know what you're going to ask me.
and
Sit up straight,
it's always been that way though. It's just like just kind of go with the flow. And I used to do so much organization, and I find that I wasn't following it because you really kind of have to follow where the conversation goes, and then just kind of go with it. I mean, don't you think, Viggs?
Yeah, I think the video helps too, because you get
the video does help, because now when we can see each other, yes.
Yeah, it took us a while to make that leap. I mean, I used to be in my Civic podcasting because I had a newborn in my condo, and it was a loft. So it was just like we had a bathroom, we had a bedroom, and a kitchen and a living room, and it was all together. Hard to do a podcast in that with a newborn.
Huge help to see people.
It does help.
And no one's trying to talk, because my partner likes to have his camera off when we do one of our podcasts, and it's hard to pick up that rhythm if you can't see them. So yeah, that's a big thing. The other thing that I've found I really like is if you recorded an hour with Frank or whoever,
mm-hmm.
and giving yourself permission to edit. And you can take that front music and the intro, and if you decide there's 10 minutes that are boring, what I do is I just cut it right out of the Can You Keep a Secret podcast, and I'll kind of go, this is an okay podcast at 50 minutes, but if we cut it to 30, it's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird because your guest will be like, you took that the part where I was talking about my daughter out, but it's like, well, it's supposed to be what's interesting.
That was good for us to connect on your daughter, but
yeah, but that's out.
It's out.
Overtime has obviously taken off this year.
Our guests have embraced it. Like,
I really wish Pat Micheletti could have stayed on. If Pat Micheletti could have stayed on, it would have been outstanding.
He's great.
But the thing is, now I just put a whole bottle away, and I am freaking drunk off my ass right now because I haven't had dinner.
I'm whiskey elite. I'm okay. I think Pat is the closest thing Gopher Hockey has right now to a Wooper.
Yep.
I think Pat's a little conflicted because under Don, I don't know if Pat felt as connected. I think he felt the friction either between the alumni and Don, or him and Don, or whatever. It wasn't comfortable for everybody. And so I think it's back to being comfortable, but I don't know if the coils of the world have embraced Pat.
What would you have Pat do?
I mean, I think Pat is kind of an ambassador for the program. I think he could do a really good pregame type situation. I think he can do promotional stuff. He's great with fans. He's just got to be like, Pat needs some massaging to like feel appreciated. And I think he needs to feel that back from the university for him to get invested, because he's got a nice thing going, I think, with K-Fan and the Wild and all that stuff. And, that's good for him, but I think he'd feel more invested in the U if they reciprocated it. But he's pretty close. The other person I would look at would be like Johnny Pohl. And Johnny Pohl hasn't done a lot of media, but if you're looking for like a personality,
great quote.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I love Johnny Pohl. Like I've talked to him for a few things. I've talked to him for some background stuff. And Pohl is he's a good guy. And I know his family's kind of in a situation where he's got young daughters, and his wife is very invested in coaching and things like that. He's the AD at Hill, and he's just like, he's busy, but like he is a very engaging guy who is of the earth and blue collar and can connect with people very easily. So
I would agree
That's my
with
read.
that Pat is the new Wooger, because I felt the wrath. I posted a picture a few years ago of the panorama at the beginning of the Michigan game
Yeah.
when there was nobody there. And he came over to me in the second period and yelled at me, "What are you posting that crap for?" I'm like, sorry, it's what was really here, but nobody bleeds more than him right
He's
now.
passionate.
Could he be a TV guy?
He's tried. He does a little bit of the St. Cloud games, but I think it's
brother's
tough.
Obviously a big timer.
Yes, that's.
I have a hard time with connecting with Clymer. I think he was pretty good when he started. He has some qualities where he knows a lot about the game because of his NHL experience. But if you look back at Ben, he's a player who was there for like a year and then had his injury and then went and left the program. He never accomplished a lot as a college hockey player. Well, he won a Stanley Cup. And
no, I mean, in the college level, he didn't do anything.
No, he was not a college guy. You know, he took that opportunity and went pro, and he played in the KHL, and now he's at Hazeltine. He's a financial advisor, and he's very, very successful human being who went back, finished his degree. Like, Ben's a guy, but I just don't know if he has that connection where he can connect with the fan base that you're looking for in that role. And I don't know what the right fit is.
I think FSN just likes
there is some discomfort there between the fan base and him.
Yeah. FSN just likes their Jefferson guys. They do. They got Clymer. They've got who's the new hockey guy? St. Cloud. Mark Parrish. They've got Parrish on there now. They've had Kevin Lynch on there for years for basketball.
Parrish is a very personable guy. He connects.
True. He has a personality.
He connects with a lot of people. I see him at the Jablonski event, and he is just very engaging with people. He's like, yes. I accept that I'm grumpy, but I connect with people. I don't get that with Clymer. I get him as very standoffish. When he comes to do his games, he's in the TV booth and he's out of there. He's not at availability.
No,
he's not hanging around the rink. He's not doing the walkabouts pregame or postgame with fans. You know, it's a different deal. And you know, maybe it's complicated because he's got a young family, you know, and he's got a business going on. You know, it can be super complicated. You know, for everything to work out perfect with these personalities and their connection, it's got to be a right time and a right fit.
That's why Wooger was so good.
Wooger is perfect. Wooger connected with everybody. Like when he was in the dog pound doing a game and he took everything the right way and gave it back just the same, that was perfect. Like I was the rube who would go do the Harry Buffalo drinking and then come to the concrete center wearing my Gopher stuff and high-fiving the St. Cloud guys. Like that was a ton of fun. It was a different atmosphere. It was great.
I have photographic proof of that too.
I got a good Gopher story that I would love some video documentation of. So we were in Wisconsin when this has to be Kessel. So whatever year Kessel was on the Gophers. And we took a road trip to Wisconsin and we beat them the first night. So then I was at a bar. I went down into the basement and I brought a broom into the stadium in the leg of my pants. So when I had to walk up I couldn't step. So I had to and then we were way up top. And so I got in and then we set the broom down on the ground by our seats. And when we swept, we went down to the lower level on the way out and threw the broom onto their ice at the end of the game. And I know it went on TV because whoever was doing the TV said, "Oh, we've got a broom at the Kohl Center," or whatever it was at that time.
Oh dear.
But yeah, and then when I was running out of the stadium, a guy came out of a suite and started choking me. And then my brother kind of knocked his hands off of me and we got out of there.
Vigo, were you at Duluth when all the brooms hit the ice?
Yeah. And Westrom started trying to throw them back into the student section.
Yes. I was there.
I was there for that.
That might have been, was that the weekend you won the jersey?
That was the weekend I went to grandma's and won the floor hockey shootout and got the Molson Canadian jersey. And I might have been overserved, but I could still
Might
hit
have
the
been.
corners.
You were way overserved that night.
But I could hit the corners with a floor hockey stick. Give me plenty of time.
I was witness to it. You won the jersey fair and square. It was amazing.
I believe it. Well, let's get this poker match going at some point. We'll have
That
a
would
little
be awesome.
pasta cookout at Mazzaco's and then Smoky Room.
We did have kind of a poker thing at we talked about Thompson's house a couple years ago. We had Deutsch there from the U.
He's good.
We had a little Frozen 4 viewing party.
Yeah.
That was Denver and
Duluth. Denver won, didn't they?
Yeah.
And Deutsch was really relieved that Duluth didn't win.
And just a little peek into the window of Gopher Athletics. While we were doing this, Deutsch was updating track and field SID work.
He was doing track and field all evening.
That's how it works there.
Yep.
Poor guy.
We got to get Deutsch out and just get some beverages in him.
Well, he's got a little kid too, so it's hard.
I know.
It's hard when you get the little ones.
Yeah, some of us have older kids now.
Jupe, you've graduated. You've figured out how to do it. This is why Kinger's doing all these podcasts. He's got an empty house.
I had kids when I was a kid. We were 23, so that's a different ball game.
Yeah.
I'm 42, so I'm in the meat grinder now.
There you go.
I think we got to bring it back old school. This next generation. I told my son, I said, I got no problem if you have a kid before 25. Like, I think bring it back.
You're like, graduate college first, but then just bring it back.
I think all of us need to go up to Duluth.
Oh,
have a reunion up at Duluth.
If they play early enough, I can get us on at Northland.
There you go.
I reached out to the U to see if I could just go into one game, because I'm seeing a handful of these fans, which
you're kind of a guy,
which famously are walking in front of the cameras, which is hilarious. There's like 10 people in the building and they keep, but
you know why that is, don't you?
I don't know why.
You know why? Because a few years ago, the university forced one of the FSN cameras or the broadcast cameras out of the upper deck.
Okay.
So they had to put it down low. So they have their pool camera right next to one of the FSN cameras up top. So they don't have two cameras up top anymore. They used to have one that was wide and one that was close. So now FSN and the other groups have to put their cameras down on concourse level. That's why you're seeing it get blocked by fans. And there's no ushers there to stop them now.
They gave me nothing when I tried I was like, I'm season ticket holder. I know Mr. Coyle,
Don't you know who I am?
Yeah, they're just, it's only family. From what I can tell, but
I think you gotta send your C Note blog posting and be like, hey, Brian Deutsch, gotta credit me.
Man, that was tough. That I wrote that right before Wisconsin, and then some of my buddies are like, you just jinxed us so bad. But
there was some strong language in there. I like.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty loose.
I mean, Scott Reedy probably read that and he's like, "Yeah, that's right. I am a big guy." You saw him chirping everybody the last couple of weekends. He probably read it and he's like, "Yeah, I got it." I mean, Kinger says I better step it up.
He's the big brother. He was great last weekend, man. He's
healthy again.
He's almost Yager-like when he's healthy. You just can't get the puck from him.
Yeah,
he makes himself big
and he scored.
He scores all the
time. But he had kind of been, dishing off at the last second and not.
He couldn't shoot. He couldn't shoot.
Yeah, he was hurt.
He's got a thing.
He's got a thing.
He's got a thing that he deals with that's popped up over the years. If he can figure that out and it doesn't become a thing, he could be a successful pro. Like, he plays the right way.
Yeah, he does.
He doesn't make mistakes, and some people call it Captain America, but like he's got things buttoned up.
Who do you think departs early this year?
Lacombe.
I don't think Lacombe does, just because he's so raw as a defenseman. I think he gets torn up in the AHL. And Anaheim's years away. I think Johnson is a risk because he doesn't
score a goal first.
He doesn't project to be a scorer. He projects to be
still
a bottom 3 defenseman, a guy who supports a Crowley type player. Like Johnson could play with Deline and probably be okay because he skates so well. He makes no mistakes. He's a perfect complementary player. So that's a risk. And Buffalo's a train wreck of a franchise right now. They could probably use players. Ranta, he trains with Rantanen. I'm sure he's got NHL dreams, but he has grown so much from last year to this year. Just one more year, what happens? So.
Oh yeah, Hobie Baker doesn't hurt,
No.
I mean, for a Finnish kid to win the Hobie, I mean, I don't know what that would mean to him, but he would be a top candidate next year if he was back. When he's playing well, he can take over a game way more than a guy like Cole Caulfield. Just because the way he can play physical, the way he can play around the net, the way he can play on the rush. I mean, he's got talent. I think Nick,
5th-year senior thing. COVID senior.
I could see Cullen back. What's he gonna do? Grow a stash again?
Oh, he'd be perfect.
He'd be a perfect 5th-year senior.
I would. I mean, even I know Reedy wouldn't, but depending on your injuries or whatever you're doing, it's a game changer if you get 1 or 2 guys to do that, and they don't need the money or whatever. I mean, what a loophole.
Yeah,
it is.
And McManus, I don't want to, profile people too much, but his family flies from California to Minnesota for a lot of games. I'm sure he could stay in college for another year and be just fine.
Oh, why wouldn't you? King of the world. Get a year where there's actually people in the bars and people in the rink. I mean, I would.
Part of being a college athlete, it's kind of a cool deal. You just got to keep in mind, Scott Bell used to tell me this. Every NHL franchise only has 50 pro contracts. If they don't see you worthy of one of those 50 pro contracts, they will abandon you immediately. So keep that in mind when you leave the friendly confines of chartered flights, catered meals, as much ice time as you want, Cal Dietz. Before you leave that, realize that you are putting yourself into a race for one of those 50. And teams don't like to be at 50. They like to be at 47, 48 so they can sign other guys. It's difficult to be a pro. You can go play pro in Europe whenever. There's going to be jobs for you if you're good enough. But
hey, is this the
NHL different?
Is this the longest overtime?
It's pretty close. We've had some long ones. It's been fun.
It's been a good year.
COVID. It has been a good video. The video makes all the difference. I swear it does. I gotta get the podcast. Well, it's already exported, but I gotta get it posted here, and I gotta pee like a racehorse.
Well, you'll call it.
The entire bottle's gone. I'm gotta pee.
I've got a full bottle here. I'm just drinking the wrong proof.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna have you on again, kid.
Thanks for letting me invite myself over. I'll be even better next time. I'm a little looser now, but
it's perfect. It was perfect timing because of the cancellation.
Bye week. I've always been a sideshow. Might as well keep it up.
Kinger, it's why my DMs are always wide open. It's for people like you to slide right in there and say,
hey, what are you doing?
We got it. You want to do a pickup game this week? Let's go.
Fixing a pile.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Good evening.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good